to start with any public comment. Anyone can come up and speak about a project that is not on tonight's agenda. I see no one coming forward, so I'll close public comment. And we will move on to approval of the minutes of the Single Family Design Board for June 3rd. If there are any corrections or comments, thank you.
Have to make a motion.
We make a motion, so moved. And we need a second for that?
Second.
Okay. All right, so we'll go through one by one here. We have 1222 Shoreline Drive, 2230 Cliff Drive, 2521 Anacapa Street, 1576 La Vista del Oceano Drive, 16 Rubio Road, 254 San Julian, 1123 Manitou, and that's that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, and then on to the consent calendar for June 3rd. Right, I'll second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The consent agenda for Monday, June 10th, 2013, item A, 533 Conejo Road, granted final approval of the review after final with conditions. Item B, 209 West Constance Avenue, granted project design and final approval with the NPO findings. Item C, 1315 Mission Ridge Road, was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer with positive comments to return to the consent calendar, continued indefinitely to consent. And the items on consent were reviewed by Jim Zimmerman and Jamie Pierce.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a
Discussion.
question. I'm sorry. I've forgotten the rule. I was representing item B on the consent calendar. So do I abstain from voting or abstain just from that item?
Abstain just from that item.
Okay, I will abstain just from that item.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and next we have consent calendar for June 17th. Yes, a first and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
For any seconds?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Consent agenda for today, Monday, June 17th, 2013. Item A, 1708 Loma Street. Project design approval with the NPO findings and final approval as submitted. Item B, 1120 Garcia Road, was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer to return to consent. Item C, 120 Camino Alto, was continued indefinitely to the consent calendar with comments. Items on consent were reviewed by Jim Zimmerman and Jamie Pierce.
Okay, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, and can we have a roll call, please? Here?
Here.
I'm here.
Brian Miller.
Here.
Lisa James.
Here.
Jamie Pierce. Here. Jim Zimmerman.
Present. He's here. Okay, thank you. We have a subcommittee. Any announcements by staff? Okay, great. Then we can move right along to 1222 Shoreline Drive, first item on our agenda. Okay, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Jim Zimmerman. I'm the architect for Bob and Jan Koch.
What do you use the blurb? I have to read this. Okay, 1 second, please. Something. It's coming. Okay, the State Fair Political Practices Act, the FPPC Regulation 18702.4B5 states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee of which he or she is a member to present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for a client. Mr. Jim Zimmerman is a sole practitioner and is using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of his client. Thank you.
Go ahead and read that.
Okay, so we're going to review prior notes.
So this is the notes of comments made at the last appearance. There was a motion to continue the full board with the following comments. One is to erect a standard level of vertical and horizontal story poles at the site. The board requested an organized board site visit. Study alternative window options for the master bedroom and master bathroom. Provide a site landscape plan. The board finds that the style of architecture is acceptable. The motion was on a 4-0 vote. Bernstein opposed. Zimmerman stepped down, and Woolery was absent.
Okay, and
So, Madam Chair, before I just read this, it sounds a little confusing. I know where did Michelle go? Because it says 4-0 vote, but then it says Bernstein opposed. So is that a 4-1 vote or a 3-1 vote? So they may want to correct the record.
we'll have to clear that up. All right. Okay, in your presentation, please, and how you address
Yes,
those points.
I'd like to review the photos, and Michelle
She has
has those.
stepped out just for a minute here, so.
I might have another copy. There you go. So after being out on the site visit, you can probably look at the street scene, and this is the two backyards, and this is a street scene from across the street, another one from across the street, and this is the subject property right here. This is 12 shoreline, and 1214 and 1216 as you go up the street. 1218 and 1220. This house has been approved for a 2-story over the garage, and this is the house next door, and the house next door to that. And beyond that is this 2-story. So I can go over a few figures. We are at 84.08 FAR, so we're under 85%. This is we'd be the 5th largest of the closest 20 homes. What I have here is showing this is the subject property, and these are all 2-story. This has been approved for 2-story, and then there's 2 more houses over here that are 2-story. So I feel that there's enough 2 stories in the neighborhood to be have neighborhood compatibility. This is an interesting picture here, where this is the subject property, and these are the the 3 roof decks that you had observed at the site walk. And then this is the 2-story that has a balcony in the front. The rest of them are roof balconies. So if we go to the site plan, this is the existing site plan, and this is Carol Corn's property that we visited this morning or this afternoon. And this is a structure that is will be demoed. That'll all be demoed, and then the house itself will be demoed. There are some very large trees here and here, and then along the property line here, there's a very, very thick hedge that runs down through there. And the elevations of the existing house. So we're going with the underground garage, and the garage itself, the driveway itself starts here. There's a 19-foot or 9-foot city right-of-way at this point that we can take advantage of for the driveway. On our first submittal, we were right on the setback line. We're at 6 feet here. And after meeting with the neighbor on site, I was able to move the house to 10 feet from the property line. So floor plan wise, you come down the driveway into the garage. We have stairs coming up that exit to the first floor under the existing stairs. So you come up the stairs here, which is right here, and then you go into the first floor. And you have a kitchen area, dining, living room, and a bedroom here. And then in the back, we have a back porch that is partially covered by the cantilever of the second floor at this point. And then we have some beams, a trellis running out, which would be nice to plant on with a little fountain here. On the second floor, we come up to the second floor at this point, and we have a deck area in the corner here. That's the only decks that we have. Bedroom here, bath, master bedroom at this point. And upon meeting with Kathy Corn, the owner of this property, I did raise the sill height of this window, and I made these windows smaller. So that would be on this submittal. And then meeting with her Friday morning, I was able to this was the bathroom window, which was extending down. And it was originally, it had a 5-foot sill. It has a counter in front of it in the bathroom. And so I made that 5'6" to the sill height. And then I made it obscure glass. These windows here were about 2 feet wide, and I narrowed those to about 1'6" on both of these windows. And I'm going to use the glass that we all observed 2 weeks ago, where you can't see out on an angle. And that's what I planned on using there. I told Carol Corrin that, or Kathy Corrin, that we could make these obscure glass, but then the neighbors really didn't want obscure glass in the bedroom. So we're going to use the type of glass that you can't see at an angle. So this is the front elevation, and this is the deck area here, and a little bay window here. And what I was able to do, I was able to pitch both sides instead of running one big roof across. I was able to pitch it, and then I got a low pitch inside, which made the roof lower at that point. This is the rear elevation, and we have a pergola coming off here. And it'd be nice for planting to trail across here with a nice small fountain here. And make a nice shady back porch. This is the east elevation. This is the covered deck. And I was able to project the roof out on a shed here to cover, comes out about 3 feet, to give the first floor some coverage there. And then we get a small picket fence along here. This is a elevation of the garage door, which would be probably a darkened color, so that it wouldn't, pop out so much, being that it's at a lower elevation. I think it would blend in nice. This is a section elevation, and we have, and this is the driveway going down, and then with kind of a low picket fence along here, which would be nice to trail some plants along to help cover the wall. And this is the back porch with a pergola above.
Okay. Did you bring a landscape plan?
Not as
Not
yet,
yet.
no.
Okay.
I wanted to submit that at a later date.
Okay, how are we doing on the other points there?
I think he covered,
Pretty much everything?
he's addressed them.
Okay. All right. At this point, we have a slip here from Kathy Corey. If you'd like to come up and take a seat. Would you turn the mic on, please? And you have 2 minutes to speak.
I'm again concerned about privacy, and I think at the last meeting you had suggested that the plate height be raised on all 3 windows. Then I met with Jim, my sister and I met with Jim Friday, and we discussed the plate height would be 5'6" with obscured glass, and that's what we had agreed to between us.
You have to speak right into that mic.
Okay. And so now today I see it's changed, and I'm still concerned. I think previously the windows in the bedroom were 24 inches wide. Now they're 18.
Actually, it says 16 inches wide
Oh,
here.
16,
Yeah,
a foot and a
I
half.
made
you
them
said?
small.
Yeah, they're actually smaller than a foot and a half.
Okay, well, to me, that's not much of a difference. And if the glass that he's referring to is obscured, apparently you can see it appears to be like clear glass from the outside. And how would I know if it were replaced? You know, if it looks like normal clear glass, I would never know if someone had replaced it with clear glass.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Maybe other glass types could be considered other than opaque, you know.
Thank you. Okay, and then questions from the board?
I have, Jim, could you go over, you had that sheet out of where all the second floors showing the various lots. You had a little 8.5 by 11.
Oh,
Sheet, remind me again what about it. So Shoreline Drive here. The house right next door has been approved for a second story over the garage, you said?
yeah.
And that's that house with when we were there today, it had an open,
Yeah,
the
wall.
wall open. Okay. And then this has a two-story. Did you have a photograph of that one? Was that
Yeah.
on your
That's
photograph?
the one with the,
It has an underground garage.
That's number two, but it has a second floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you put it away. It's that piece
Oh.
right there.
I want to
It was
remind
on it.
myself what it looks like.
1216.
So its second floor is not over the garage, but over to that side, and your
Yeah.
applicant is to this direction. correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and this is a split level. This is about
Right.
6 feet off the ground.
Okay. And then, and the description right now says 85% FAR. That's still the same, right? Hasn't changed.
No, it's actually 84.8, but once you exceed 84, you have to say 85.
Okay.
So,
So okay.
so below 85.
I think that's my questions for the moment.
Okay. Any other questions?
thank you, Madam
Ernie.
Chair. Jim, could you explain to the board how the FAR is calculated and how there is a reduction?
When you have a underground garage for the FAR, you take 50% of the garage, and that becomes the FAR.
Added to the first floor square footage?
Yeah,
Or to the total
Yeah.
square footage, basically.
but it's added back in on this calculation, which is also FAR, but it's added back in to show it where it relates to the closest 20 houses
Oh, I see.
on how large they are.
Are you saying that it's added back in at 50% or
No,
100%?
100%, yeah.
So okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Oh,
I'm sorry.
which one of you would you like to go? Brian?
On the second floor plan, it looks like you've got the windows, but they don't show on the elevation.
No, you're dangling.
Okay. You don't show windows here, but I think on your floor plan, you show windows on this side?
You mean here?
No. on the
Oh, let
front
me
end.
see. Yeah, let's put that one.
Oops. Which way is it? Oh, is that underneath?
Here, there shows two windows
Oh, it's a bay.
off on each side of the bay window.
Oh, I do, yeah.
So,
Yeah, they face south. Yeah, I do show windows there.
so which one's the correct?
Well, this would be the correct because that's facing south, so you get an ocean view here.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Jim, I noticed on the existing plan that there's a pittosporum that's right in the front of the patio,
Yeah.
slated to be removed. And when I was out there looking, I was wondering if there was any way to preserve that, because it really would give a nice screen to the...
Yeah, is that the very large?
No, it's the one right
you'll have to come up.
adjacent to the patio.
I'll point to it here so that everyone can see what you're speaking about.
It's it's a standard tree, probably about 15 feet high right here, and I see it's about a foot from the patio, and it's huh?
Kind of tough to leave it there under construction.
Well, I'm just wondering, it's an established tree, and
Well, I could bring it up to the owners, and
just to consider it, I'm just wondering if it might be reconsidered, because
yeah.
it is
okay.
established and it looks good.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions?
I have
Yes.
one other question I forgot
Right.
about. On the existing house, currently there's no garage, correct?
No.
Was there ever a garage?
I think this was a garage at one time.
Oh, there was a garage.
This looks like it was an old
And then
driveway.
they converted that into
Okay,
this.
so that's how they got their garage coverage.
Yeah. And this is a zoning violation.
Right. And under the current zoning code, you're required 2 covered spaces, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
Yes.
Yes, Frank.
I think it's a really great plan. The only thing I'm not angling.
That's me.
You need to open it up to turn it on. This button.
Hold it down.
There you go.
On the floor plan, I'm a little uncomfortable with this wall into the neighbors and the windows. I'm thinking this needs to be reduced a little bit, and I actually think maybe these windows should be taken out. Just for privacy, because your primary windows should be on this wall. And I don't know if it'd be better to have windows in here rather than there, but anyway, this wall I think needs to be reduced and the windows reduced. So that's probably my only comment. Otherwise, it's a nice style home.
Okay. Fred, comments?
Yeah, this is a real dilemma for me. This is a real geometry puzzle. Because after we saw the story poles today, I was a bit taken back by the bulk of this corner as it relates to, regardless of where windows are, as it relates to the yard, this yard. This, and go back to the site plan. Yeah, this yard, if you complete this drawing, the wall of the house kind of comes like this, and then there's an opening for the garage. That's the only private yard this house has. And we have this big corner kind of looms over the top of it, regardless of whether it has windows or not. It just looms over the top. And I got to thinking that, one of the dilemmas that this project has is it is trying to get this garage under the bottom level to accommodate the garage. And so, here you have a lot, and you have the original house was kind of right up at the setback line, as I recall, was here, and now we've pushed the house back there to accommodate that distance to get down under, so you have a proper grade to get to the garage that's below here. And you have this existing house that kind of does that, so this is not quite accurate. But it pushes the house where this wall now is really facing directly into that yard, where if the original footprint was left in place and you did a 2-story based on the original footprint, that wouldn't be the case. That wall would be kind of facing this piece of the house. That doesn't really solve the concern, I think, that this owner has about the way the sun comes up, because in either case, a two-story, whether the house is here or here, is pretty much going to block the morning sun. I don't know that there's any way around it if you have a second floor on this house. Having said that, then looking at the floor plan, I'm just wondering if there's a way to soften that second corner, that second floor corner right here, this area right there. And I realize it's, what I'm proposing is a fairly major redesign effort, because it would mean having to rethink about how this thing is laid out. One of the approaches is to switch the master bath and the wardrobe to shave this corner down. The other radical approach would be to say, just put the master suite on the second floor and move it that way. That's why I was kind of asking about when you're looking at the whole neighborhood, the whole streetscape of Shoreline in this block here, if you assume that ultimately everybody wants to build a second floor, so at some point in time everybody's going to want to build a second floor, it's kind of like, then how do you arrange the second floors along that street? So that if this corner house, that one, wants to have a second floor, where do you put those second floors? Then you have this house, which is now proposing basically the second floor is pretty much over the whole house. Then you have this one where Jim has indicated that there's a second floor approved over to the garage. Then you go down one more, and then you go to this house, which has the second floor kind of like that, because this is where that garage goes in. So it's where you start to put the second floors and keep them away from everybody, because the lots are so small and the setbacks are relatively small. So that's kind of what my concern is. My dilemma is, I can understand the applicant wanting to have 2 bedrooms on the second floor, master suite, et cetera. It's nothing out of the ordinary. They're not extraordinarily big rooms, et cetera. But the bulk is really bothering me in this corner. Now, having said that, if the rest of the board says, the shape of the building is fine, then let me just take a minute to talk about the windows. And maybe we can go to the elevations. This one. Sign this page.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something. So the windows, I think on this side, I would be more in favor of having windows here that were that size and mounted at the same 5 foot, 5'6" height. Then I really don't care what the glass is, because for anybody to have to really look out and look across to the adjacent property, if that adjacent property has a second floor, they would really have to make an effort to be able to look out that window and then try to look in any windows on that side, if it's up that high. And I think I shared last time, I've designed several master bedrooms where the bed is on that side and we put little high windows to let light in. I just don't think those windows, given the circumstances of what we're dealing with, these windows need to be tall and long. I'd rather see 3 of those. And then if you look at this in 3 dimensions, which is, when you're looking at flat elevations, a little bit misleading, because you have to kind of look at that elevation with that elevation to see the corner. I think this window is too big. For a bathroom, I think that could be much smaller, because one could stand at that window and at an angle still be able to look into the neighbor's backyard. And to some degree even from this window, which is in the
That's a shower.
The shower. So I'd like some rethinking about, if we're going to hold on to this corner, then I'd like some rethinking about the size of these 2 windows. And I guess I'm not convinced about angled glass at this point. I probably have to see it for me to be convincing. Let me see if I covered all my points. So by maneuvering the house back, the geometry requires that moving the house back is required because they're trying to get this grade for this garage to work. On the other hand, if you had a project designed where the garage wasn't underground, then the question is, could you hold the house back up at the setback line and create a garage that would occur here? That would require then rethinking where all this stuff is, or where that bedroom is, et cetera, because then you'd have to be able to get a ground level garage to meet the garage requirements. By zoning, you have to have 2 covered spaces. So that's kind of my dilemma, and I want to hear from my fellow board members before I can make a decision or make comments.
Okay. Jamie?
Yeah, kind of responding to what Fred just said. I was thinking, like, the way that the curve is of that block, it reminds me of Padero Lane, how these houses, the first floor is built to where everyone's view's maintained. And ideally, it would be great if the second floor could do that in this area, and which would be amazing to accomplish. But I was looking at the glass block floor, and is that just to get light downstairs when you enter?
Yeah, I've used that before, and it's a good walkable surface, and it brings light into the lower level.
I really like that, but I was thinking maybe that's where we could have some room to bring in that side on the west side, where you move the master bedroom over, you take maybe the wardrobe and put it where the bed is now, and then you can move that whole master bath in a little bit. Just a thought.
Thank you. All right. Lisa, you want to weigh in?
Not this time.
No? Okay. Bernie?
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Jim, for letting us go look at the story poles. That was helpful to see. I'd like to jump in about it's probably likely that in our lifetime, if not much sooner, every one of those houses is going to become a 2-story house. As soon as they sell, nowadays they're knocked down and something else is going up. So the neighborhood is changing very rapidly. Last time the question came up about is that garage that goes down the driveway underneath, and then you back out right into Shoreline. If I'm correct, that's how you get out of the driveway, right? You back out into Shoreline, which is, in my opinion, pretty dangerous. And I think that really needs to be looked at, because if we approve this project with the way that the garage is and with the size, then of course we're setting the precedent for the next 4 houses in that area probably. So I don't think this project really meets our guidelines. I'm opposed to it in its current state. I do appreciate the changes that are being made with windows and things, but my final point is that if you look at the 20 closest homes and you look at the lot sizes, okay, this one is number 5 in its size, but it's the smallest lot of all of them. And so I just think that this amount of square footage on this size lot with the configuration of this garage and the proximity to Shoreline, it's just not meeting our guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'll weigh in a little bit here. I think the story polls were very revealing. I know I wouldn't want to be Ms. Puri and have that very, very tall edifice looking right down on me in my only private area. I too feel like it's a pretty big house for the lot. It is a postage stamp lot, and it's pretty large. And that particular corner, that side, is really aggressive. So one of the thoughts that I had was that what might help would be to lower the first floor plate height to 8 feet instead of 9. that would help. But again, there's just the basic configuration. It does seem to be this extra space in here that could be perhaps utilized a little better. And this is a pretty large second bedroom up here, too. I would say any place that you could shave off some of the square footage would be really, really appreciated by myself, and I have a feeling some other folks on the board here. Other than that, it's a lovely design, and I guess that's all I have to say about it. Is anyone prepared to make any kind of a motion?
I would like to comment.
Okay.
You know, the guideline is to stay under 85%, which I have. And this puts me in a bit of a problem because I can't resubmit for about 2 months. Fred's going to be gone. I can't submit to myself. And then it's 2.5 months going into planning commission. So we're talking about 6 months to get any kind of approval. I would like to.
Is that a fact?
That shouldn't sway, the timeline shouldn't sway the board's concerns about the project. The project needs to be reviewed based on the merits of the project, not the potential approval timeline.
I think moving over 10 feet makes a big difference. I can put the first floor at 8-foot plate, which will lower the foot, and I'll take care of these windows here. You know, I'll take care of those windows with the neighbor.
Okay.
So I think the 1 foot will make a big difference in height, and I will work with Kathy Corey on these second floor windows here. If need be, eliminate them.
Okay. Brian?
It seems, listening to everyone, what it seems to me would be really easy. Like, I'd like to see this wall pulled back. I think there's room to pull this back. You know, you shrink the wardrobe and bathroom a little bit, but this width is just a lot. And I know, after what Fred and everyone is saying, not only reducing square footage, I think it's a very simple solution. Just want to pull this back a little bit so there's not so much of this massive wall looking down on her private area. That's, to me, that seems like a relatively easy way to go.
Okay, could I make a suggestion?
Yes.
If we could come in and that wall could be pulled back to here, and then we'll just put a shed roof below. So this would pull back with it, and we'd have a shed roof here below, and the second floor would be gone.
No.
You can figure it out. Let him figure it out.
And that puts it over 6 feet, 7 feet from that corner, which I think will make a huge difference.
That would make a huge difference. I
Huge
think.
difference.
Madam Chair. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michelle. Clarify.
Madam Chair, board members, I was just going to say, before we discuss a hypothetical design, I think the board should take a motion action on the project today and make very clear points. If you're happy with the exact footprint, or if you want the footprint to be reduced, it needs to be very clear motion. Okay. And additionally, if you're not comfortable with the design, I would discourage the board from sending this on to the Planning Commission. We don't want any sort of misconstrued projects that the board here is not very comfortable with, but then goes forward and gets a Planning Commission approval. So I understand the time frame concerns for the applicant, but the board needs to be reviewing this project before the board and make a motion on this project.
Okay.
Michelle, if I could, just to clarify the process here. We can put together a motion. It will have comments, etc. And my sense is the comments will require some redesign, certainly different windows or whatever. Would he go to Planning Commission? Can he go to Planning Commission with those comments? Or does he have to come back here and get those comments reviewed by us before he goes to Planning Commission? How does that work?
Well, thank you, Board Member Sweeney, but I think the discretion would be before the board. It really depends on what the motion is going to state. If the motion states reduce square footage and start to really tweak with the design, I would suggest that they come back to the board before they proceed to the Planning Commission. If the board is comfortable with the project as proposed in this mass today and just wants windows tweaked or the shed roof pushed in, then I think that maybe that could be something that the board could maybe take action on and pursue to the Planning Commission. But I would, before we start making these hypotheticals, I think the board should look at the project and make a motion.
And then the reason for that is if it gets to the Planning Commission commissioners would go, well, what did the single-family board say about this
Exactly,
different
yes.
set of drawings that you have from the ones they saw today?
Exactly, yes. We
And
want,
that's what's-
essentially, we want the project that goes before the Planning Commission to be supported by the board, ideally.
Okay.
So if I could get comments with reducing square footage, which I'd be doing, and then moving back, say, the wall 7 feet.
Okay, what we need to do is we're going to make a motion, and
Okay.
then we'll take it from there. Okay, so Mr. Sweeney, do you want to?
Yeah, let me
Give that a
attempt-
shot.
I just want to ask staff, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is there any influence on this from the Coastal Commission at all? They aren't going to... And are you, I don't know who, maybe she could introduce herself, because I don't just...
Chair Woolery and Commissioners, I'm Peggy Burbank with the Development Review Section, and when this project does make application to go to the Planning Commission, I will be the planner working on the project. That's why I'm here today, following what's happening to it in design review. Now, having said all that, I've forgotten your question, so would you please repeat it?
Well, do you have any opinion or feedback yet so far on what you've seen?
No, Commissioner Chair and Commissioner, because no application is before us yet. The applicant has only made application to the Single Family Design Board.
Okay, my question was, does the Coastal Commission look at any of these projects?
Thank you. This is in the appealable portion of the coastal zone within the city, and within the zoning ordinance, because it's in the appealable zone and because it is a proposed two-story building, it must go to the Planning Commission as opposed to the staff hearing officer. So, in a sense, that means that the Coastal Commission has signed off on this to be decided by the city, but because it's in the appealable portion of the coastal zone, it could, after Planning Commission, and I'm not certain about City Council, be appealed to the Coastal Commission.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to formulate a motion now.
Okay, and I have a question to staff as I construct this motion. The motion will need a second. If I get no second, the motion dies, correct? Yes. If the motion is made, it gets a second, it's discussed. If the motion is voted down, does that mean the board can do a second motion?
Yes.
Okay. So you all understand? If I make a motion, we vote it down, someone else can make another motion. Okay? If I make a motion and nobody seconds it, it dies, and then someone else will make a motion. Okay? So I'm going to attempt a motion.
Okay.
If you don't agree, you can not second it. Okay. So my motion would be for the applicant to return to the full board with the following design considerations. Is reduce the second floor area as indicated by the applicant's architect by 6 or 7 feet in the north-south direction on the second floor. basically affecting the master bath and wardrobe, shower area. And that would, based on the applicant's architect, indicated that that would allow a one-story roof configuration over that area of the one-story. 2, so this is the second issue, is when the design returns, any windows that would be located on the west elevation would be no larger than the, I assume, 2 by 2, roughly 24 inches by 24 inches window that's currently shown on the west elevation. All windows on that side would be of that size and would be at a sill height of 5 feet or higher. That the designer consider in the new configuration smaller windows on the north elevation so that we have some indication that it would be difficult for the second floor resident to look down into the adjoining neighbor's backyard. That the applicant's designer consider, in consultation with the applicant, consider retaining the existing pittosporum and share with the board, if it chooses not to, what the circumstances are that would prohibit saving it. That the board is generally in favor of the design language of the architecture and is supportive of the Shoreline Drive street elevations, and would still like to have on the review a landscape plan, preliminary landscape plan. That's my motion.
Gotcha.
I'll second it.
I like the motion. I have one comment. I'd like to make the motion consider the windows on the bay window. They're drawn on the side, and they're not drawn correctly on the rendered elevation. Do you have any particular feeling whether they should be eliminated completely or just that the front elevation be revised?
The front elevation should reflect the plan.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I don't think that's worth a motion.
I don't think that's worth the motion.
Just a-
It's just getting the
Under
Okay.
discussion, Madam Chair?
Under discussion.
Is that where we are?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So if you vote for this motion, you're basically making a couple of small changes to windows and a little bit of square footage, but not very much in my opinion, and the driveway still stays as it is, which I don't think follows our guidelines, so I won't support the motion.
Just for clarification, let's make sure we understand how much square footage the designer is talking about. So he's saying 8 feet or 7 feet roughly by 18, so 7 times 18, whatever that is mathematically.
Bernie's figuring it out.
What somebody doing the hip?
Yeah.
How much is it?
Moves.
About 120 square feet.
120 square feet roughly.
Okay. And with the point being that it's going to completely shorten that wall that the neighbor is looking at, which is critical. It's going to reduce that whole FAR as well, but it will also reduce that
Yeah.
two-story.
I'm not sure, Brett, were
Oh,
you standing in the backyard with us today?
No, I wasn't in the back, but I walked around to the sides and the park.
Excuse me, but I have one more under discussion about the motion. If the maker of the motion would consider also adding that the plate height be reduced to 8 feet on the first story.
I would agree.
Is the seconder
I'll agree.
All right. Okay, so that's our motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
To return to a full board. see, where am I now? My pages are all turned around. Where the heck am I? Shoot. I'm on the wrong page here. Hold on. Where's today's agenda? Okay, next project. 2201 Edgewater Way. This is a new item, concept review. Okay, Bernie's going to step down on this. This is a proposal for an 81 square foot first floor addition and a 38 square foot second floor addition to an existing 3,243 square foot two-story single-family residence with an attached 476 square foot two-car garage located on a 21,777 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District and within the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The proposal includes replacement of all existing windows and doors with new, that's interesting, with a new 129 square foot second floor deck, new exterior stairway and gates within the front yard, new site fences, landscaping alterations, and the replacement of the existing asphalt driveway and brick patio with new permeable pavers. The project includes Planning Commission review for a coastal development permit and zoning modifications. This is comments only. The project requires environmental assessment and Planning Commission review for a coastal development permit and zoning modifications. Welcome. Can you introduce yourselves, please?
Yes, my name is Raymond Appleton with Permit Planners, and I represent the owners. And I have with me the landscape architect, Sam Maphis, and the architect, Steven Sinikoff, and the owners, Mr. and Mrs. Hoffman.
Welcome.
And one neighbor, Mr. Sherritt, who has a home two doors away.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you go ahead and present?
I'll try to immediately hit a few points that came up during the last discussion. One, proximity of nearby homes. And after I give you a brief, I'll go to that because I think you're going to be interested in that. But first, I'll let you know that it's a very small addition. It's already below the guidelines of the city. We're adding less than 0.5% to that. If you turn to the site plan here, behind this is the street front. The property is located about 5 feet below the street. When you drive along Edgewater Way, there are 3 homes that are below the street. And you get to this home by going down to the end of Edgewater and then coming back in a private easement driveway into the side of the home. There is no driveway to the home from the street. There is to this one next door, which would be this one. You can actually drive down and get into it, but by the time you get here, it's a 5-foot drop down to this one, and this one, and this one. So the addition to the first floor is right here, and this little corner right here behind the garage. They're going to do an addition to the kitchen between the house and the garage, 81 square feet. At the back of the house, you have 3 little cantilevered pop-outs on the second floor, and what they're doing is they're adding to make that an even line. That's the 37 square foot of addition is right there on the second floor. That's all the addition there is to the home. Most of it is this architectural style change of the way the home looks, which the architect will go over, and landscaping changes, which Sam Maphis will go over. There are about 5 points that we need favorable comments on. One, currently there is a stairway, approved stairway. There's an approved little 4-foot tall fence, which Mr. Maphis will speak about. An existing solid wood fence in the right-of-way that was approved many years ago by right-of-way for the trash can enclosures, so the trash men don't have to go down to get the trash cans. And the city gave a modification for this in the front yard setback, the property line being right here. And that is a path to the garage into the kitchen. So that's approved. What they're asking now is for an arbor and entry that looks at the home, through this existing hedge. There's a big pepper tree and the largest of a pittosporum and we're proposing that. So the points I'll need from you is that you support replacing this existing permitted 4-foot tall solid wood fence with a picket style fence with the gate in this backed with white backing so that you still can't see the trash cans. It still has a view screen. Then the continuation, replacement of an existing chain link fence across behind the hedge with the continuation of the white picket fence. That's the second thing. Third thing would be the arbor itself, the walk-under arbor that's located a little bit behind and through this existing shrubbery, so that where you can see the home, and you'll see photographs of that. So the third thing is the arbor. The fourth thing is the stairs themselves need an encroachment permit for the front yard setback to get down to the driveway. You can get down to it, as you can see, with just one stairway, but the architect and the owners looking at it decided this is more elegant to come down and not have a swivel over here or swivel over there. You come down, come around, brick, and this is all concrete now, not asphalt. That was a misquote. All concrete, replacing that with pavers, and this would be a brick wall that you can see leading straight to the front door when you come down. So that's the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4th thing. Then there's a drive-through gate, which is currently a 3-foot tall wall gate. They're going to put columns and a 6-foot tall gate, and we would need your comments favorable to that item also. The neighbor has a 7-foot tall fence along here, and we're cutting that down about back to here behind this tree down to 6 so that it corresponds with the columns and this fence. So it doesn't look kind of weird when you're coming to it, so it conforms in appearance to that. So we need those comments supporting the right-of-way encroachment. I've already spoken with the right-of-way people. They have no problem at all with the picket fence, what was already approved, with the picket fence being back here and this arbor back here, and that's what's in the right-of-way, and they have no problem with that. Talk to David, and he has no problem with that at all. The rest of it, they'll speak to you about the architectural style changes that are going on, but I also heard conversations about the location of the neighboring houses. Here you can see on the second sheet here, A2 sheet, you can see the location of the neighboring houses. This is us here. Here's the garage. The street is up here. And you come down a private lane to get to the property here that serves this house and this house. This is the neighbor's garage next to us here. It comes down like this into their garage. Coming here, the neighbor's garage is on this side. This is a part of the home, but you can see the distance between the two homes here. And this is, as you'll see, is a planned development area for a private patio area. It's always been a brick patio area. It just happens to not be permeable, and they're replacing that patio. It's an existing patio, but they're replacing it with permeable brick, not grouted. So you can kind of see the distance here of the effect. This home sits out in front of this one, and you'll also notice that the landscaping along these two, neither home can see the other. I could not get into these because they have fenced gates, and I could not get a photograph from coming out far enough to the edge of either home because it is totally on this side about 30 foot tall and at this side about 10 foot tall. I could not get shots of this house from here or this house from here. So that's not the way it goes. The question about the Coastal Commission, the project would go to the Coastal Commission only if a neighbor or another citizen appealed to the Coastal Commission. That's how it gets to it appeals on approval. That's how it gets there. If anybody had any problem with that. I did get one other email. Went out to 30 people. I'm noticing I did get, besides Mr. Sherritt's attendance, I did get one email from a neighbor who lives in this home up here, and he just wanted to know that he wasn't going to be able to see this addition in the back of the house, and it wasn't going to raise it up anymore from his second-story deck. And he sent me some photographs. This little addition is actually below the eaves of a ridge is down here. So he even said at the end, if it does not in any way intrude into my view, then I will support the project. So Mr. Hernandez, Andy Hernandez, of 112 Palisades, and Mr. Sherritt is from 2305 Edgewater Way. As to whether or not it's going to go to the Planning Commission, staff has been deliberating about what the rules are, about where the development standards are set. And we've retained Todd Tranby of Earth Systems. You may have heard of Earth Systems. And what he found, Mark Johnson, who wrote the current coastal definitions for bluff-top setbacks, if you're familiar with that, and under the definition of bluff edge, Mr. Johnson of the Coastal Commission staff, his last sentence of this 2-page section on bluff-top edge says this: placing artificial fill on or near the bluff edge does not alter the position of the natural bluff edge. This, as you can see from this old geological study, the entire yard behind the house is all fill. See that? And then it has these 4 little retaining walls. In fact, the house itself is on fill. As you come up the street, and the street's on fill, and every 2 houses past that is a 4-foot wall going all the way up to Cliff Drive. And it says, as we previously discussed, it says, position the natural bluff edge. The natural bluff edge still exists, buried beneath the fill, and the natural bluff edge is used for purposes of defining development setbacks. So we expect in the next 2 weeks that the planning staff will change their position and measure their 50 feet from the, we've had this surveyed, the bluff edge has retreated 1 foot 6 inches in 25 years from where this is shown, and here from where this is shown, it's come back 1 foot 6 inches from that point. So, and if you measure 50 feet, we're only triggered to the Planning Commission because they were measuring it from the top of the fill, and it came 50 feet is here, and it cuts across like that for 2.5 feet down to 0 right there. Got us to the Planning Commission, even for an interior remodel, moving a toilet, anything. So we think that 50 feet is going to be remeasured with this new information for Danny and those above him. But we go forward as if we were going to the Planning Commission, not just the staff hearing officer. So you can see the hedges that exist, the overheight hedges, overheight trees and hedges that exist currently between the 2 homes. It's an amazingly small project. You can imagine Mr. and Mrs. Hoffman's surprise when they're adding these 2 small additions that this suddenly became a big project. And then their architectural improvements and their landscape improvements didn't seem to be concerned, and we've had no opposition anyway for the right-of-way improvements or that improved view of the residents through the hedge to give it a residential street view. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to the landscape architect, Sam Maphis, and let him, starting from the street forward, kind of tell you the improvements he has made and suggested for the property.
Okay.
Thanks, Raymond. So I'll just go back to the site real quick and bring it into context with some pictures. The existing planting on the street, I'll show you some context to this hedge out here, and to describe what's there now, there's 2
I think you have those photographs, another set with you also.
large existing Myoporum that are going to remain. There's an existing Pittosporum hedge along the street that you can see is kind of mixed heights and needs some care and needs some trimming for it to fill out better, and our intent is to do that. We have a large existing California pepper, and this is just a large existing Pittosporum. So we're taking the new walkway through this berm area, and that's that opening that you see in the bottom photograph. There's an existing Brazilian pepper here, and these are existing black acacia, and there's a large existing Monterey pine here. Those are all to remain. There's some big lemonade berry, and this is quite a rough bank of overgrown Rhus integrifolia, and we're going to be taking that out and redoing it with some small planters, and as Raymond described, stairway and arbor. I'll show you a picture of in a minute. To go to another context, just to give you more of the streetscape, this is what we look at down the street and across the hill. You can see that the sloping aspects of what Raymond described go continuing up towards Cliff Drive, so there's a retaining wall holding their front yard, and as it goes up, there's small walls that hold, 3-foot walls that hold most of the yard spaces. So our intent is to do that terracing on our downhill side and create quite a nice little entry court, which we don't have now. It's in disrepair. And then this is the context of the actual residence. This is the front door. This is the garage area that you see here, all to remain. This is the little infill pocket that Raymond described that'll increase the kitchen size. We're still keeping a planter. This little maytan tree will be 86th in this design, but we're planting a new tree in this area. So
You have that on another sheet.
I'll show you that in a sec. This is that side yard garden that goes down the east side, which I don't really have a good picture of.
Right in here.
That's that, right. And then this is the back of the house showing how these planter beds in this area are going to be converted to stone and masonry to match the rest of the stone and masonry on the rest of the architecture. So just to describe the front one more time, we are going to be opening up this area, and I kind of give you a reference kind of rendering that shows the streetscape. This is the arbor. This is the solid picket fence. It'll have picket on the front side, but it'll be solid so we don't look into this more service part of the yard. But then the picket will start here all the way across. As you see, it'll come through and behind the pittosporum, but it'll open up in this area. The picture that's a little blow up is this is the large pepper tree. This is the hedge that needs repair. We'll be planting this. I'll show you in the landscape plan with some low-growing ornamental Fragaria chiloensis, some heuchera underneath the shade because this is north side. This is all right away, so we have to keep everything low. There can't be anything tall except for this hedge. So that's the context of the entry. Again, he described this little Juliet kind of double balcony. I have a picture of what that looks like because we don't want to encroach in what's already a tight turnaround motor court. To describe some of those elements, you see this as you come through the arbor. That's planted with climbing honeysuckle and geranium. This has some stephanotis where we can underneath the shade. This planter is planted, you'll see in the landscape plan, as well as these two planters on both sides. So I think it's framed quite nicely. This is the section that shows how the arbor comes down, and it's ramping over a little high ridge. It's actually a mound, and then we're coming down to the steps that go into the motor court. Another area that we'll be improving is a chain link, or actually wood gate that's the motor court entrance. We're going to be putting in some stone pilasters that match our masonry and some nice wood gates that match the whole flavor of the style of the cottage architecture. To continue on, the landscape plan will describe that. It wants to be kind of a coastal cottage. So again, the low planting in the front. This is a site plan that shows carpet roses and some festuca glauca behind here, and some, we have geranium in the front and some armeria, so we have some sea pink here. We have some camellias, viburnum, roses in this area. Another arbor kind of surrounds this area. Right now there's a big fence that kind of takes away this big, large Brazilian pepper from the courtyard. So we're going to open this area up and make the perception of the front area much larger than it is now. Right now where my hand is all solid fence. Opening this up to the front yard, closing this off with, again, picket and another arbor going into this more private part of the outdoor garden patio. We're adding a fireplace, a spa, an outdoor countertop and kitchen. This patio pushes out a little bit so we get the view here, and this is the stone garden spaces and walkway down to the existing lawn. All this stays existing. The only treatment will be a little bit of planting up against the base of this patio. This will be vegetable gardens. It is currently. We're just going to improve that. Foundation plantings of roses, limonium, some grasses like miscanthus. These are some of the other elements. This is a metal spa we'll be using from Diamond Spas. This is the arbor that goes into the back garden. This is the fireplace and kitchen area that's on the side of the property line, inside the setback, of course. So those are the main points that I wanted to bring up in terms of landscape. It's a very good quality upgrade. We are changing the paving, as Raymond mentioned, to a Belgard paver, Thunderbolt paver that is all flush. We do have a brick walkway that encourages the alignment to the front door for the pedestrian. This is all flush to the motor court, so it'll be driven on. It matches going back into the brick patio in the back. We'll be using some stone headers that match all the different stone masonry elements. So all of the continuity of materials is going to be throughout, from landscaping through the architecture.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the landscape?
Not yet. Yeah. Yes? Well, we're not quite there. The architect still has to
Yeah,
present.
we'll do that first.
So let's finish the
I will
presentation.
add just one little photograph. This is looking from the inside towards the last owner had a basketball goal right there about where you can see where the little place where we're going to put the arbor on the inside. Currently, there's this retaining wall, and there's stone facing, as you'll see, stones being added not just to the columns in it, but all around the home. This will all be stone faced now, and these are where the little stairs come up to this new arbor here. Here you can see the edge of the. I'm sorry, you can see the edge of the garage. You see what it all looks like now. And this is that lemonberry bushes, which is going to be removed. It's about 8-10 feet tall, and then the planters that are hidden in there. He's putting in the low planting flowers in here, all along here. And way back in the corner, you see the trash can corral stairway is kind of off to the side now.
Okay. All right.
We'll go to this. If you want to roll that out, or
Yeah.
is it in here?
I asked the architect to just add some more notes to the ATN sheet. There's notes added to better define the fireplaces, how they were brick and they're not being stone faced, and so on. And so we're switching out the A10 sheet. We're giving you all new A10 sheets. It's just exactly the same sheet. It's just more. You'll see more notes added and some definition added for the outdoor fireplace.
Okay.
Thank you. When I first met with Mary and Craig about a year ago on the project, they had just bought the home and they were very excited about the neighborhood and the view and everything, but they weren't so happy with the outside of the home. We are, like Raymond suggested, we are only adding 180, 120 square feet to the home, not doing a lot to it. The outside was more of the issue, and so what we're doing is we're taking the existing house, we're going to remove basically all the materials on the outside of the house. We are not changing the massing of the home, the size of the home, the height of the home, the roof stays the same. Everything happens within the confines of the existing structure. So, and when we first met, Mary was she really likes the East Coast architecture. So we are looking at doing a home that resembles a coastal home that you might find, in Nantucket or, somewhere back east, where we're looking at, shingle siding or real shingles, box columns, painted wood trim, wood shingles, windows that mimic that architectural style, and then using a coastal stone and elements to create a little bit more interest. So this is the front elevation, and as you come down from the street through the arbor, this is the first thing that you're going to see, and it's really the welcoming mat to the home. So it's very important that this element here gets a lot of that traditional detail that kind of sets up everything for the rest of the home, the landscape and everything. So as you can see in the existing photos, if I can grab this, here is the front of the house as it is right now. So we still have the bay pop out. We still have a porch. We have some, I'm going to say some strange detailing of corbels that, we're going to take these off. We're going to take this wood trim off, this clad siding, and then kind of rework it. This high gable here, we're removing. We're going to shut it down. It kind of brings that whole element down. Raymond calls this the church window. We're going to take this off, do more of a coastal window. That's a stair area here. And then, anchor the house down with some stone. So we're really looking at, these are the details now that we're going to take and put throughout the entire structure. It's a continuation of the details that start from the front. So from our front, we have the stone. As we march around the side of the building, you still see the trim, the wood trim, the shingles here. It's actually an existing chimney, fireplace that's right here. but it's pushed into the house. This is a cantilever out, an existing cantilever. The fireplace kind of snugs underneath it, the chimney, and it's almost as flush as it runs up the wall. We thought it'd be interesting, Sam thought it'd be interesting if we created an outdoor fireplace here. So if we pull this wall out a couple of feet, add an exterior fireplace, and then run the chimney up, it mimics the exact same shape as the existing, but it pulls it out a little bit. And what it does is, it, first of all, it gives us a really nice outdoor fireplace. But it gives us a chimney that actually projects out beyond now this plane, and it creates more of an interest, and it breaks up that side a bit, and it actually, we don't lose that detail anymore. And then we're following through with shingles and corbels. We're gonna, all the pickets on the existing decks and patios are gonna be redone. So as we go from the side, we go around to the back of the home, this faces the ocean. Again, it's all the same detailing, the same materials we're following through. The windows, kind of the coastal windows we see in the front, we continue in the back, so we have that continuity. We're adding stone from the front as a base for the existing patio. We're also proposing a bay window off the living room here. It kind of gives us more light and more view out towards the ocean. With this bay window, gives us the opportunity for more stone on the base. This would be painted out just like the rest of the trim of the building. And then we're also proposing on the second floor, this is the master bedroom, is that add a balcony or a patio, a deck, if you will, off of the master bedroom. It sits over the existing patio below. It doesn't project beyond the sides of it. It doesn't project out as far as it, so it's within the shadow of that existing patio below. And then as we wrap around to the last side here, this is all existing. We're reskinning it. This is the existing patio. This is the proposed deck above. And then we're adding a fireplace in the master bedroom. And so we're bringing out the chimney a couple feet. And what that does too, it gives us more interest. It gives us an opportunity to add some more detailing on this kind of blank, flat side. And then it just creates more interest and detail on that side.
Can I use this for color?
Sure. This is the first rendering of the home that we did. It doesn't have everything. We widened this fireplace, so that's not shown in this. Right here, yes, but pretty much everything else is the same. It gives us a good feel for what the house is going to look like with the wood shingles and the painted white trim and all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that anything else?
Mr. and Mrs. Hoffman, the owners, would like to say something real quick.
Okay.
And when would be time for the neighbor to speak?
Well, has he filled out a yellow slip?
Fill out a yellow slip.
I didn't know anything about
There's
that.
a yellow slip over there. Needs to fill that out and bring it to the secretary.
Hello, I'm Mary Hoffman.
Hi.
I'm Craig Hoffman. I don't think we have a lot to...
You need to speak right into that microphone and push the button in the front, please. There you go.
It's recorded and televised.
All right. I'm Craig Hoffman, and Mary Hoffman is my wife here. We just kind of echo what the architect said when we bought the house. We were very excited to be in the neighborhood and be on the bluff, but really felt that the entrance to the house from the street needed major improvement, not going by the trash cans off to the side of the house. And being able to improve the courtyard and the landscaping was another big goal of ours. But the exterior of the house really had an 80s feel to it because it was built in the 80s. And we think with just some of the changes that we're proposing will really improve the property immensely.
Okay.
We really want to get rid of those beams that are coming out of the side of the house. It kind of looks like you could hang somebody from them.
Oh dear.
Totally unattractive. But the neighborhood, the house itself is wonderful. The whole feel, I think, is going to be a great coastal feel. We have large dogs, so the fences are very important. to keep them out of the neighborhood. And we have 4 adult children, so being able to have access to street parking is going to be great to be able to have them come in. Because, as it was mentioned before, we only have a little bit of space in the parkway. So I think the improvements, improving the front of the house, making it friendlier to come into, is very important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, you can just give it to me. Okay, and right now we have one request to speak by a neighbor, John Sherratt. Did I say that correctly? Sherratt?
Mr. Sherratt lives on this
Sherratt,
property right here.
okay.
So I'm 2 houses down. My name is John Sherratt.
Okay, you'll have to speak right into the microphone, please.
2 houses down, and I'm in full support. No objections. I think it's an improvement. I think it's a nice design.
Okay.
They're nice neighbors. And I see nothing detrimental. There's no blocking of view or any negative impact. So,
All right, well,
full
thank you
support.
so much. Thank you so much for your comments. Okay, and now we will go to the board for any questions. Yes, Brian. Having trouble with that thing today, man.
Is there a 15-foot requirement for the deck off the master bedroom from the property line?
No.
Well, there is. Well, we have a guideline about it being set 15 feet from the property line. Any deck, second-story deck.
What's the house next door?
If you turn to, well, actually, look at this right here.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, I
their
see.
garage. We're 6 plus 15.
You have
Yeah,
to go
you're
over
going to do this over here.
I'm sorry.
Well, here, we've got
It's
that.
probably on the front sheet or one of the front
There you
There it
side
is, right
plans.
here. There you go. Their driveway comes down. This is their garage. The deck will be out here.
Okay, so essentially it's just a garage here.
That's right.
Okay.
And their orientation is spun further to the west as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of their windows and orientation is this way.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Any other questions?
Yes,
Yes.
I have several.
Oh.
But most of mine, I think, are to staff. Let me attack the first group. The hedges and the arbor entry, right up at the property line, that apparently are they asking for, I know the fence is being asked for modification. The hedges and the arbor entry, that requires a modification? Retaining the big hedges in the front?
It's in the right-of-way, sir.
It's in the right-of-way? Does that require modification?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
And-
no, it does not.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I'm talking to
All
the
right.
staff officer. Would you please clarify for me? Are the hedges and the arbor do they require modification?
Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Peggy Burbank with the Planning Division, in case anyone is watching on video late. Okay. We do not have an application before us yet. I have not looked in detail. I have looked at the drawings with Mr. Appleton a couple of occasions, but I have not taken any measurements or anything like that. I'm not exactly clear on where the arbor is relative to where the street right-of-way ends and the house begins. If it's in the setback, then it would require a modification. If it's not in the setback, it would not require a modification. But if it's in the street right-of-way, they're going to require permission to actually create the walkway from the street over the berm down to the property boundary. And then the stairway and everything would be then on the...
And I understand all of that. The reason I'm asking about the hedge and the arbor is that currently there is a process in the works. In fact, I think the next hearing is June 24th, where the city is going to consider redefining the current ordinance, which has been put on hold in terms of hedges within the setback or within the right-of-way, and entry arbors. Right now, under the old ordinance, those aren't allowed. And if they are, the hedges have to be down at a certain height, and so forth and so on. And it's not that I'm objecting to what they're proposing. I just concerned about if this board blesses what they're proposing, are these folks going to run into trouble with the height of the hedges and the location of the arbor, because under the old ordinance, those aren't allowed. That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay. Board Member Sweeney, I can't answer that now because the decision hasn't been made, and I don't actually know what is in the ordinance that is being considered for July. I think that Mr. Appleton could explain the location of those things, those items in the proposed plan relative to the street right-of-way and the setback. But my understanding from the earlier discussion was that they were going to be lowering the height of that hedge. So I didn't think it would be an issue.
And so that was, thank you. That follows to my next question. So basically,
Here it
the
is,
fence,
right here.
the fence is showing.
Here's the property line right here.
The fence is showing at 4 feet, if I'm reading that measurement correctly.
Yeah. Right
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is if that fence is allowed under the modification, it has to be at 42 inches.
It's not. It's in the right of way.
It's in the right of way. So is that a different rule?
Yeah. It's up to the Public Works Department.
So, and you already kind of indicated they were kind of cool with that.
Yeah. In fact, you can see the property line here.
Okay.
The fence and the arbor are in the right of way.
Okay.
We waited until you get to cross the property line, and the only thing what needs the mod. I met 3 times with Suzanne Regal, who is the preparatory officer before the modification, the show hearing, because at that time they didn't know about they don't know where the 50-foot is going to be yet, whether they're going to planning commission or not. And the stairway themselves are in the front yard setback. And just as a structure, that needs a mod. Okay? Because the railing needs a mod because it is
42 inches.
It is taller than 3 foot 6 inches from the ground. And as you see here, it is 2 feet 2 inches taller than what you can see from the street. So that needs a separate mod, as does the drive-through gate, because it's taller than 3 foot 6 inches. That's what needs the modifications.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's oddly enough, the railing is a separate height mod, than the structure of the stairs.
I understand. Thank you.
From planning commission or show.
So, and then based on the small amount of square footage we're talking about here, this application doesn't need to deal with the FAR business, correct?
Well, thank you, Board Member Sweeney. The FAR does take into place because it is a 2-story house on but it's on a lot that's greater than 15,000 square feet, so it's a guideline.
So that's the 76% I'm looking at down on the project description, correct?
You're on the wrong property, Dan.
Whoops, I'm sorry. Oh, I don't, yeah, that's why I didn't see it on the description.
The FAR is actually on the first sheet.
Okay. Let's see. So I got the hedge answered. The gate height and the height of the columns, are those theoretically the heights are okay, or do they have or they have to be at 6 feet? I guess that. Right now, these are six feet,
and there's the top of the cap, the very top
is six inches. So I'm just asking. Is that correct?
I believe those are part of the modification for the height.
Yeah.
And that'll be
But the height
Public Works as
is
well.
it's just part of, if they bless it, it'll be okay. Okay. Thank you.
And again, it is shown to be just 2 feet 2 inches taller than the street right-of-way area, which you could see from the street if you could see it.
And then the materials of the fence are going to be, is it wood? What is it? Wood?
This will be wood.
Okay. And then, is there any issue of the spa that they're proposing? That's in that side yard. Other than just normal building permit stuff.
It observes the required setback. It must observe the required setback.
Okay. Short of that, it's okay. Okay. On the garage door, are you going to retain the existing garage door, or are you going to show a new garage door? The architecture.
I think we're going to show a new garage door.
Okay.
This is the one that's there now.
So this is here for concept. So when you come back, I know we'll want to see the garage door you're proposing. Okay. Over here on this elevation, in the existing photograph, grab that photograph, there currently is what appears to be an attic vent.
Yes.
So I'm assuming there will be some other kind of way to deal with that here?
Yeah, we'll deal with that in venting, but this whole structure is being removed at the top here, and
Right.
the low roof is going. So
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Okay.
So that goes away, but you
Right.
still have an attic beyond that, so I'm
we
assuming.
do, we can vent it through various means.
Okay, so you won't have a vent there.
No.
And then it appears, based on your sketches, that the little roof over this cupola is going to be sheet metal versus something
We're
else?
showing the rendering shows a standing seam metal roof.
Okay. And then the main roof is going to be re-roofed?
Yeah, in asphalt shingle.
Asphalt shingle, okay. And then the balcony square footage, this one on the back, how many square feet is that? Do we know?
Do we have that listed on this?
Did you see it on the
It's on the first sheet.
Oh, one more sheet.
It says it's right here.
Second floor deck, is that it? 129?
129 square
it?
feet.
Okay.
It's about 6 feet wide.
And then on your rendering, but it doesn't show up on these sketches, but on your other little sketch, you proposed a cupola? Is that going to
The
still
cupola's
happen?
out.
Cupola's out, okay. Roof materials you talked about. Basically, I think I heard you say you're going to replace all the current so-called corbels with new corbels, correct?
We are removing that.
They're going to all go out?
Yes.
And then the chimneys, this one and this one, and I guess what I didn't understand, this is a little bit of, I assume that gets added as square footage. But what I didn't understand, let's go back to the floor plan. Are you adding some square footage on that side of the house?
We are not.
No, that just that flushes out and comes this way into the yard off the back of that existing masonry.
So that's on the first floor, and on the second floor
The
it
chimney
flushes
pops
out.
into the second floor. It comes out this way on the second
So
floor.
the new chimney is going to be outside there?
Correct.
Okay, and that's what I was confusing me. So there is some bump out, square footage wise, of chimney, okay.
It is the outdoor chimney.
Yeah, no, I
Outdoor
understand.
fireplace, yeah.
I understand. Let's see. Roof, chimneys, balcony, we talked about. The fence, you talked about. Columns, and got material fence. Okay, that's my questions. Thank you.
Jim, you have any questions?
Well, so we can give them comments, not
Right.
concepts.
Right, it's comments only.
Yeah. And how many modifications are you asking for?
We're asking for two. A modification
And
for
that
this.
covers everything?
Actually, what we're, let's see, go back to that super large close-up of the, okay, we're asking for a modification for the stairs and for this door from the garage. I forgot about that. There's a door from the garage. Right now, the trash is carried out from the garage around, and we're putting a door in there, and you can see that on the elevation. So we need a modification. That's one modification for improvements in the front yard setback. So the door and the stairs themselves. Then we need a second modification for the height of the guardrail and railing required at the stairway, and the height of the columns and gate. They're combined in one. And so the railing height and the columns and gate height are a second modification. And then we need positive comments, though, about replacing this existing wood plank fence with picket style, continuing that picket fence in the right-of-way back here, and the arbor and the brick walkway.
Yeah.
And those are comments to the Public Works Department.
Getting back to the site plan, the geologist gave you a structural setback, right?
Well,
Giving you a structural setback?
yeah, right here. That's on the previous plans in the archives for the building since it's been
So
built.
he hasn't, there's been no update on the structural setback.
No, and none
This is-
required. It was, the only question was, where we measured from the top of bluff for the 50 feet, whether or not this 2.5 feet triggered the planning commission or we stayed in the show. I think once they read what I got in the mail Friday, is that 50 feet is going to be measured from here. It can't be measured from top of fill. And so we probably won't even be going to the planning commission.
Okay.
We're going to the staff hearing officer.
All right.
Any other questions? Yes, Lisa.
Just a second. Question for Sam Maphis. And just overall, let's see, never mind overall. The question about the proximity of the proposed stone edging to the existing Brazilian pepper. If you think that that could be problematic with roots or...
Well, it's a healthy Brazilian pepper. I think the intent of that cobble edging, Lisa, will be a little shovel of concrete and then just cobble stuck in. So the actual excavation might be 6 inches or less. So we're not going to be going into any major root systems, if any, structurally.
I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. I wasn't concerned about damaging the tree. I was concerned about the tree's roots damaging your hardscape.
Oh.
Because it's such a surface rooting, very aggressive grower.
You know, there isn't any evidence of buttressing. It's kind of going down into what looks like pretty open, loamy soil. There's no real big roots showing, so that's going to be a shade garden underneath there. And the driveway currently goes through there, and there's a fence right there where we're putting the columns. So I don't, the intent is that I don't think we're going to see much buttressing through there. Right now, currently, there isn't any.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jamie?
I was just curious what color the house might be and what type of stone you're going to do at the base.
Well, I see the house, the shingles being a natural, like solid body stain, so it's going to be a weathered wood-looking shingle with white trim. And then the stone, I think we're still up in the air in the stone, but I'd like to see some type of local Santa Barbara cut stone or something like that.
Sandstone. Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, Brian.
I think you've done an outstanding job. I support the project.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, any
Favorable
other?
comments.
Yes,
Favorable comments.
I support it.
Yeah, I have favorable. I walked out there this morning, looked at the site, and I was first curious, how do you drive into the garage? Then I figured out they had to go clear to the end of the block to get here, so I understand what you're trying to do.
It's a secret entrance.
Yeah, it's a secret entrance. I'm assuming the gates will be automatically operated. It's a stop and
Yeah, in fact,
open them up
it's-
all the time. It's a pain
The
in the
plan even shows the automatic little motor that's going to swing it open.
So, yeah, no, I think it will improve the house immensely. Just comment when you come, because you're here for concept only, but when you come back, I would encourage you to just clarify for us. I don't think we need to go through it today, but clarify, looking for the architects, there we go. Clarify what are new windows and what are basically just replaced in the same openings. Because what I detected was these appear to be new windows because there don't appear to be windows there now. And I wasn't sure about that because I didn't get a
What you're
photograph.
pointing to now is existing, those two.
So I think it would just be helpful on the drawings to...
They're actually there. You can't hardly see them, but
Oh, they are.
there they are right there. These little.
It's just to
windows,
indicate which ones get new shapes and which ones are existing. I think that would be helpful. And certainly, we're going to be interested in the detailing, the balcony and the wood and some other things. But I think short of that, I think it's a nice approach.
I think it's a good project, yeah. I think everything's been explained.
I think so, too. Everyone feeling good about this? Positive comments? All right. Let's,
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
I really like how you made the Sam the pedestrian entry and the car entry a really nice space. It feels like a courtyard that it doesn't feel like a driveway, and I know that's what you were intending on doing. You did a good job, and the way that you did the stairs to optimize the space for the car coming in, and I just think it'll look very elegant. You did a nice job.
Thank you.
All right, then let's send this along with...
Madam Chair and board members, just going to make two quick comments just to remind you regarding the fact that they're requesting modifications to include in a motion the standard modification language, and then also to explain how and why they are aesthetically appropriate if you find such, and if there are any adverse impacts. So just be very descriptive in that regard for the motion.
Okay. And who would like to formulate this motion?
Madam Chair, I would suggest whoever does, maybe the applicant could take through, because he knows the modification, take us through each modification one at a time so we can make comments pertinent to those modifications.
Okay. The modifications required are for the location of the stairs in the front yard setback.
Okay, and we
And
find...
the,
So,
Hold on.
So go one at a time, and then we'll make language to that.
So the modification for the stairs...
for the
in the front
stairway
right-
structure
stairway
itself.
structure
And
itself.
this door into the garage.
And the door into the garage
That's
those
one
are-
modification.
is aesthetically appropriate, and it does not pose...
Well, not,
You don't
nobody's
need to-
crafted a motion yet.
Okay, well,
Somebody needs to craft, you want me to
let's-
craft the motion?
okay.
Okay, so I'll craft the motion. Okay. So the board, for comments to move on to the Planning Commission and/or Staff Hearing Officer, would make the following. For the modification required for the stairs and steps within the setback line and the garage door on the north elevation, that they would be compatible with the aesthetics of the architecture as proposed in the house, and the architecture as proposed in the house is acceptable and compatible in general with the neighborhood.
Okay. Now, the second modification is the height of the railing and the height of the automobile gate and columns.
Okay. And so for the second modification, the board finds no concern over the 42-inch height of the railing at the stairs, nor the 6-foot 6-inch height of the columns, or the 6-foot height of the entry gate, driveway entry gate on the east property line. Okay, that's it. What else do you have to have? Don't we have to say anything about that?
Well, the Public Works, David, would like to hear just a positive comment about the brick walkway with the arbor and the picket fence.
Okay. So the board looks favorably upon the adjustment to the existing landscape hedges that are in the right-of-way, that the proposed brick walkway and entry arbor and picket fence within the right-of-way are an acceptable design. And that, in general, the board is in favor of the square footage. The board, on the return to the full board, that's the motion, full board, that the applicant define the locations and shapes of new and existing, or existing shapes of the window locations, and that be clarified. That color board be brought back at the next visit, and that I'm trying to think what else we need to cover here. And that the square footage additions are acceptable, and that the board looks forward to looking at the details of the finishes, the decks, the appendages that will be applied to the exterior of the house. And I think that's enough of a motion. And excuse me, and yes, a delineation, preferably trying to think of the sheet, manufacturer's sheet on the garage door. Okay? That's my motion.
All right. Okay. We have a second for that motion? Okay, Lisa, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Opposed? No one's opposed.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
It's really nice.
Really appreciate your detail in going through the project. That was good.
There's just a lot of stuff to have to deal with.
I've been doing this 30 years, and you don't get very many people that really paying that close attention. And it helps. It helps early on to get all that out.
I don't know. Forever.
Somebody will be looking for it.
Yeah.
745 Dolores Drive. It's a continued concept review, so we'll wait to see what comments we made at the last one.
Thank you, Madam.
I know, that took far longer than it should have. Okay, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Russ Banco, and I represent the Haney's.
Okay. Second concept review. It's comments only again. Is that correct? Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modification. It was last viewed on April 8th, 2013.
Okay, since the last time I was here...
Oh, 1 second. We're going to read the minutes
We
from
need
the
to
last.
read the minutes or the motion. We'll get through all of it. Okay, so it was last seen on April 8th at the board. The following motion was made, was continued to the full board with the following comments. 1, the board finds the proposed design does not meet the guidelines and suggests a revised design approach to be more compatible with the neighborhood. 2, study the front entry and entryway staircase. 3, study the proportion, size, and location of the windows. Consider reducing the size of the windows. 4, study the deck and the stairway to the deck. Consider reducing the size of the deck. 5, the board finds that it would be acceptable to remove the tree in the backyard. Provide further information for the next review. 6, provide colors and a material board. 7, study the solar access. 8, the board finds that proposed modifications in the design as proposed is not aesthetically appropriate and poses a consistency issue with the single-family residence design guidelines. 9, study alternative treatment for railroad ties. 2, provide a landscape plan. 11, the board finds that the size, scale, and bulk are not compatible with the neighborhood. Study reducing the total square footage. 12, provide photographs of two-story homes within the immediate neighborhood. The motion was made by Bernstein, seconded by Miller, on a 7-0 vote.
Okay. Now, you may continue.
Okay, so since I went the first time, I had warned my clients that they aren't from here. They thought they could just build what they wanted, and I told them we weren't going to get the master bedroom upstairs. Now that we are obviously not going to, with the master bedroom upstairs, the upstairs was going to be as big as the downstairs. There was no way to get around it. So now they've given in. I can put the master bedroom in the old living room, put the master bath in the old kitchen, and that shrinks it from being 50-50 approximately, half the house up, half the house down, to 71% is now downstairs and 29% is upstairs. From a neighborhood standpoint, I have decided from reading your guidelines exactly, this is exactly the appropriate neighborhood, because the things that are brought up are that they are similar zoning. They're all zoned the same. Properties built as part of the same original subdivision. That is La Coronilla Tract, Phase 1, 2, and 3. Common access routes, it's Upper Mesa east side, east of Meigs. And walkable radius, 15 minutes. You can walk across that whole thing. You can walk to Taco Bell in 15 minutes from the top of the thing to the bottom. And they're similar architectural styles. The same guy built every house, and the same architect designed all of them. And about a third of them were mid-century moderns when they were built. This one was a mid-century modern, although not a very good one. It was a mid-century modern when it was built. Okay, so now, again, this is the map of all the two-story houses. There's 40 currently. And it has shrunk by about 150 feet by being able to put the master downstairs. It shrank by about 150 square feet. The master is now in the old living room. The master bath's the old kitchen. And I have, this part is a bottom story addition out into the backyard at the lower level. That brings it so that the upstairs doesn't start until this half of the house, and that is where the hill goes way up. So all of the two-story portion is now where the next lot's a story above this house anyhow. And there is no longer an entry stairway. You're just coming in as a normal house at ground level. And it doesn't actually, something was mentioned about a mod. There is no mod being asked for. The garage is legal non-conforming in the front and side yard setbacks because it was the zoning when the house was built. The reason I have to go for a mod, or before the modification hearing officer, is because part of the original house is now, it wasn't when it was built, but it is now in the setback. But I'm not doing anything to that portion of the house. My part's all out of the setback. Okay, now what I did is I tucked the deck back into the footprint of the house. Rather than having it stick out here looming in the backyard, I took the stairway out, and it's now covered by the roof line coming up this way. Then it drops off. It's like a bucket roof house on the west side or whatever, so that there's a barrier right here so that when you're in the house here, you can't look down because you've got the edge of the roof in your way to looking down severely. You can still look out and down. You can still see the ocean from here, but from in here you can't see the next door neighbor's yard. And I have talked to the neighbor, and he's looked at this. Okay. The elevations are now all the second story is back on the uphill side. It steps back from the street. The second story is always back and steps farther back as it goes back away from the street. There's none on the downhill side looming over the neighbor that's a story below. And it's still western red cedar and stucco. Still has comp shingles. And from the window standpoint, the large window that is a door with the trapezoid windows above is probably the most iconic detail in mid-century architecture. I brought just a number of pictures out of different books, and that is as common a detail as there is in mid-century architecture. I'm leaving it the way it is because it's appropriate to mid-century architecture. And I am going with, I have not seen any, I looked through dozens of my books on mid-century architecture, never found any with wood casement windows. They're always aluminum sliders or aluminum or the old steel casement that don't pass anymore. So I am sticking with dual glazed bronze anodized aluminum sliders and windows, and they are the, when you look at all these, every one of them metal. The house that they liked that this was started after was this house, was the one that got us started, and it was all wood instead of wood and stucco. But so much of this house is already stucco that we're just featuring the wood rather than making it completely wood. And now at the bottom of La Coronilla, right at Meg's, they've gutted a house, taken it to the studs, and are rebuilding it. So that must have come through here, and it's being rebuilt with aluminum windows because it's the best mid-century house in the whole neighborhood. Now the next is the failing railroad tie retainer is being removed, and my client doesn't need such a big side yard. The last guy was a tree guy, and I think he put all his equipment there, the trailer and the big truck and the chipper and everything, so he had to make it bigger. I'm going to let the hill come right back down, not quite to the ground, but I'm farther over. I'm going to put in about a 2-foot tall keystone retaining wall. And also on the plot plan, I am putting a keystone retaining wall in the front to lessen the slope. It's very steep right here, so I'm just lessening with one retaining wall. It'll still be somewhat of a slope, but not totally. And as to the solar access. There, I just drew a couple of sections through the house. The upstairs is going to be the classic 3 and 12 pitch, big beams, T&G ceiling, and the glass beyond. There is the solar access. That's the outline of the house. There is the neighbors. That's the height of the ground on the neighbors. There's your 12 feet up, your 30-degree line. I'm 6'6" above the apex of this house. So I'm well below it. I'm 2/3 of a story below the solar access line. And as to the tree in the backyard, we're talking to the neighbor and my clients, they're going for cutting it down. I guess every house in that neighborhood had that same tree. When the developer built them, he put that in the backyard of but everybody else has already gotten rid of it. But the last guy that owned this was a tree guy, and he liked it, so he left it. My client didn't care. It was bothering them. I mean, it just makes sprouts in their yard constantly.
Yeah.
So it's going.
It's a chamois ash.
Chamois ash.
They're
It's a
weed
monster.
trees.
It's got to be 45 feet tall and 35 feet around. And it keeps dropping little seed pockets, and they go over the fence. And he takes out, every month he takes 24 trees out. So we're just getting rid of it. We're making a very mid-century landscape, mostly very drought-tolerant plants. They don't want a flowery type yard. It's mostly shape and texture plants. They get color from the leaves and the mass of the plant itself rather than being real ornate. And everything is, just about every plant is low water use, and they're making a slight DG patio in the front. We're building a concrete bench, poured concrete bench, to have it like, they can't have a porch, so this is kind of like a way to sit out in the front. And one small lawn area in the back with the grandkids and dog. And this little retaining wall moved over. It used to be back here, and it was 4 feet tall. It's moving over here. And we have to dig footers around the entire house. There's no rebar in the foundation of the house. So I'm going to gain a lot of dirt so I can fill in that gap that's missing with the dirt I dig from all the way around the house.
Okay.
So that is the change that's made.
Okay. I have 2 slips here.
Pictures.
Oh,
I forgot.
pictures.
People
Okay.
want to see more pictures?
Yes.
So these, I think, are the 4 closest of 2 stories. And then on the inside, I just put a whole bunch more. I just took pictures of every 2-story I could see and got a bunch more on there. I'm assuming you want to go between neighborhood compatibility and fitting the single-family design guidelines. I'm going with the single-family design guidelines rather than the neighborhood. They don't necessarily match.
Okay. All right, so we have 2 requests to speak. We'll start with Don Hay. And you have 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, I'll keep it
Make
brief.
your comments.
Yes.
Speak right into the microphone, please, either one.
I want to say it's come quite a bit along since last meeting. I'm still opposed to the second floor because it's going to deny us of the views of the islands and the ocean that we've had since before the house was built. My parents bought it in 1958. So I'd like them to consider going out, not up. And if they do get an approval on that, we're going to be looking at their north elevation, so I'd like to see them add hips to the gable roof. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Could I see what, here's
I
the map.
live-
Which one are you in? That's the house.
Okay, that's the house. We're right. Wait a minute, you
Oh,
got
you're
this
there.
backwards. We're right there. And
That's your property right there. No.
No.
Right down.
Yes, and it's the same floor plan. It repeats itself every other house. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Barry Keller.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Mr. Banco came and visited when I was at home last week, and I would like to thank him for reaching out, and he showed me these plans, the ones we're looking at today. In terms of, I am the downhill neighbor. We just had the uphill neighbor. I would say it's greatly improved in terms of the imposition on the privacy on our side, so that was good to see. I don't know enough about mid-century architecture to pass judgment on that, being a simple-minded geologist. I did not understand about the retaining wall in the front. That most of the bank which goes down is actually in my yard, so I don't understand exactly what that might do there. In terms of the trees, I probably picked out 5 to 10 sprouts this morning, and there's a couple more bushels on the ash tree in the back. The one in the front, which is the ficus, that is the city's tree. I had my sewer line rooted out last week, and the city truck was out there rooting out the sewer main. It's an ongoing problem.
That's a ficus.
Right. So that one doesn't belong to the property. It belongs to the city, but it is an ongoing problem. So my main comment would be that it's much improved over the previous design, and I'd like to thank Mr. Banco for coming and talking to me.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Any questions from the board?
Let's see. I have a question to my colleague, Jim. Remind me again what Keystone retaining walls?
What is that?
They're interlocking. They're interlocking individual blocks.
Like those Allen blocks?
They're like Allen,
Like
but
Allen
they don't
blocks.
have that chamfer on the top. They just look like chipped stone.
Yeah.
Chipped cement.
Okay.
Behind that is all gravel.
Yes, gravel behind it.
Then on the entry here on the east elevation, on the plan, it shows, on the landscape plan, it shows some planting, I think. That's my question on that. I understand the drawing. Right here. What
There's
is
little bits of dirt there.
Okay. So there's going to be some kind of walkway entry.
Yes, it's only about 4 feet from the driveway.
From the driveway. So that's just like a little 4-inch concrete block.
Tiny bit.
Okay. And then on this elevation, and I don't know where the photographs are. Are these two existing windows?
Oh.
This one is, this one isn't.
So this is a new window. That's existing.
That's existing.
Would that retain,
They're
or
all
you're going to replace? But
Yes.
basically, it's in the same
Same place,
location. And that's a new window.
That's a new one.
Okay. And then up on your south elevation, you referred to the iconic mid-century shape of all of that. A lot of the mid-century were built as post and beam. So is there any kind of beam element that's coming beyond the face of the wall? In other words, up here or here or
There
here?
will be the place that holds the barge rafter.
Right, but
There'll
there
be a
won't be
beam
an
sticking
extended. There will be, but it's not beyond the edge of the roof eave.
No.
Okay. One of the things, we're still here for concepts, so one of the things I'm going to be interested in when you do come back is how you're going to deal with downspouts and gutters, because I think that will have a big impact on what this house looks like. Up on the second floor, let's see, where am I? Over here. This space here. So that window and that window are those two windows?
Yes.
And so on the first floor, that window's over the bathtub?
That is with the bathtub was.
So the bathtub is coming right up to the bottom of that window?
Well,
is it?
lower. The bathtub's
So because the finished floor is, where is the finished floor? There? Is that line right there?
slab on grade.
Okay, so that's the finished floor?
Yeah.
Okay, and then that's a window, and are these casements, or what are those?
Awning.
They're awning windows?
Yes.
Okay.
The bronze anodized.
Right, no, I understand that. And then the bank in the backyard, I guess I think I understand what you were saying, but I want to go back and look at your landscape plan. Right now, there's the railroad ties that are in here, is that correct?
Yeah, they're a little farther
Okay,
back.
so those are going to come out, then you're going
Keep the
to
taper going.
keep the taper going, and then this wall here is going to
2
be
foot.
2 feet, more or less, all the way over to here.
And then that's with the slope going up the back.
Understand. Okay, and then the roof deck, that you've got coming off of the, let's see, where do I see that? So it's behind that.
the pit.
So where is the floor line with relationship to that?
Right about the top of the fascia board.
Right there.
No, the top half.
Here.
That
So
right there.
how high is that distance, more or
That
less?
is, I think, 30-inch maybe.
So it's not going to be 42 inches.
Well, I can. You don't have to if you have there's a roof beyond.
Okay, so you're going to
But I'm thinking putting one rail across, but it needed to be the height that this is, so that from the front it all looked correct. That
Right,
it's
I
the same
understand.
pitch.
The detailing of that right there is going to be a challenge.
It may go rail across there, back and back.
Okay. And then a question to my colleagues just to think about. I'm not promoting them one way or the other, but would this be a project for story poles? That's my questions. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Questions?
Would you explain what happens here? Are you going to continue that roof down there, or?
This sticks out in the front. So this is just the roof over this.
Yeah, so what happens on this elevation?
To this?
Is that
There it is, right
there?
there.
Oh, there.
I mean, it just ends up being nothing. I mean, it just tapers off.
It comes down because you're farther up, the pitch of the roof, you go until you come to a wall.
Okay. That's all.
Any other questions? Comments?
I'll comment.
Staff is here. Do you have any things you're supposed to say?
No, Russ, comment that this was a modification to do a conforming addition to an existing non-conforming building that is changing the basic exterior characteristics, so that's the mod that is needed. And I was concerned because the way he was showing solar on the cross-section was incorrect. I just came back and verified that on the east elevation, it meets solar, so we're okay.
Okay, where were we now? So, Jim, you're going to make some comments.
Well, there's a lot of awkward areas here. You know, when you look at the front elevation of the house, it has a nice gable.
There's the front elevation.
And the way you've shot up the second floor and still continued the overhang, I think it'd be better if you just tried to put a two-story without that overhang sticking out there.
Which one? Which overhang are you talking
Right
about?
there. And also, that's really awkward there. I don't understand what you're doing there.
If I put the roof framing plan in here, let me look and see if I put it on this one.
I didn't see it.
No. Rats.
So I'd like to see more details.
For conceptual?
Mm-hmm.
This is still comments only, is that correct? We're
Sections again?
he hasn't got his mods yet.
Like,
It's got that scale.
I stepped back because generally it's reference, and in in their book, they said it's the preference. It's a little more difficult to put the beams in, but it got me stepped back on the story so it wouldn't impose so much by going straight up 2 stories. So I stepped it back.
I'd like to see story poles.
Story poles, okay.
I think that the existing house is very low, shallow roofs, and I think the story poles, especially in this situation, where the second floor walls coming up, would be interesting to see, I think.
Yeah, it would be good for the roof, too. Puncturing holes through the existing roof on the house would be great.
I have a question. What is your plate height up above on the
8
side?
and
8, 8, 8?
8, 8. 8 foot and 8 foot.
Oh, 8
8 on
foot
the bottom,
and 8
8 on the
foot.
top.
Okay.
Ceiling, it's 9.5 feet if the scales correctly from finished floor to finished floor.
What's that? The floor has thickness.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
8 foot to
understand.
plate.
Yeah.
8 foot slab to plate, and
Right.
8 foot floor
Understood.
to plate.
Okay. Any other,
Yeah, I have some comments.
yes, Brian?
I think you're going in the right direction. I do think we need to get story poles because of the concern. But I think what, if you look on this plan, I think if we, it looks like the roof does something like this. And I think that might help Jim. So that's kind of a strange.
It's unfortunately, I
But
grew up.
that's kind of mid-century to me. So, and the other thing I see missing, only thing, and it's not really missing, but Fred was talking about some beams. It's real common to see that. But otherwise, I think that it's going in the right direction. Those are my only comments.
Okay.
And if you're requesting story poles, could you give me some indication of how you put story poles on a second story without puncturing holes through the roof?
Yeah, we can show you several. We
sandbag
just saw one this afternoon.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty straightforward.
I did it obvious, but I could put them on the ground.
A good contractor will know how to do them.
Any other comments?
I do.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yes.
you want to go?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I called Bernie. so Bernie-
I was just sort of thinking out loud here that we never have a way to, like, we have other examples of second stories put on with the single story, but we don't ever know what the other, like we have the 20 closest homes, but we don't have anything that shows how large the second stories are of the surrounding homes. For me, that would be helpful because here we have 758 square feet, which seems pretty big, but then if everybody else in the neighborhood has been doing that, or at least if there's several examples, then we're meeting our guidelines. But if it's the biggest one ever, then, and you don't have to answer me right now, but because you're probably going to come back, and you can say, you can maybe go on the computer and get the next door neighbor or one down the street and get the size of that one when you come back.
Even just on this closest one, that's probably the closest. That's almost the full size of the story below. This one at the corner is almost the same size. That one down the street and around the corner is obviously the same size as the bottom story. So I would say a good half of them are a minimum of 50% of the upper story. I'm less than 50% of the upper story.
Okay. Any other?
Yes, I have. And then I just noticed something here. Maybe on the floor plan, it shows the door on this elevation. Are these flipped?
They got flipped.
Okay. So the door is really over here.
Yeah,
Okay.
those two are backwards.
So I'm going to comment.
I changed the floor plan.
I think I agree with Brian or Jim or whoever else made the comment. It's headed in the right direction, but it's not there yet. I'm concerned that the proportion of that window and this window don't look correct at this point. Even though I understand that may be the size of the current window, I think that that one could look at the proportion of this in a much different way and have it look a lot better. I'm concerned about the proportion and size of this window that's in the laundry room. Okay. It's not comfortable in terms of the composition of the front of the entry of the house. I'm really not comfortable with how this north elevation is being treated. I think that kind of window at the bathtub is inappropriate. I think it could be a much smaller window. I think that these should either be casements or sliders. These appear to be sliders in the mid-century vernacular, but I'm not comfortable how this is being ventilated. I think what would help is if when you bring these drawings back, you can indicate where the finished floor lines are and what the approximate heights are to the ridges, so we kind of understand that without having to take a scale and measure these drawings. I'm concerned about how this deck is going to really look in terms of detailing, and the fact that this right here really, given my experience, I don't know how that really gets detailed when it comes exactly perfect. This is either going to be up above that a little bit or down below that, and then how do you deal with the safety issue of somebody coming off the edge, etc. It's just, I think I agree with Jim, there's just a lot of stuff here that looks awkward, and so I don't think we're there yet. We're kind of in the right direction. We want to really understand what the chimney cap looks like, etc. So I think this has a ways to go yet.
Yeah, I agree. I'm finding a couple of things disturbing as well, especially this elevation. And in this elevation, it's just really looks like an addition to me. It doesn't look, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it all goes together. It looks like two separate houses. And of course, the mark of a good addition is that you can't tell, that it's been added on. So I think it has a little ways to go as well. For instance, this has a lot of congruity to it. You've got repetition in these windows. It's the same. It flows nicely. This one just doesn't flow.
Mid-century, you might have seen sliding glass doors that would come straight off into a patio in that area or some other configuration. So it would kind of look a little bit, what you're trying to do up here would be, the vocabulary of the architecture would be the same, but it's not. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, that is what I mean.
Madam
Okay,
Chair?
yes.
And also just a small point is just with to put the north arrow where you can spot it on the plot plan. You've got it kind of in the middle of the yard, and so if you could just put it near where the scale is, and same with put a north arrow on the landscape plan, because when we're looking at plants, we need to know the orientation of the sun.
Okay, yes.
Yes, I agree with my colleagues that the window placement is a little uncomfortable, especially around the bathroom, but that you are moving in a better direction with it, and the landscape planting the plant choices are appropriate. My question is, looks like is that a new lawn or an existing?
Well, there's lawn there now, but I'm going to rip it out and put a new one in.
So that's about 400 square feet of new lawn.
Well, it's bigger than that now, but it's going to be smaller when I get done, but it's junk.
Okay, well, I've measured your proposed
Yeah.
configuration. It's about 400 square feet. And,
Yeah, it's probably 600 now, and we're going to make it down to 400.
and don't we have a guideline that speaks to a certain percentage of lawn, and is that 10%? 20. Okay. Okay, let me do some math.
The regulation is the 20% of the total landscape area. The landscaping should not exceed 20% of high water use or lawn.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I have just one more.
Yes.
Russ, looking at this house here, what they've done is they've recessed the second floor back where you have a substantial roof in front. Like looking at this front elevation, it looks like you're only pushing it back like 2 feet with the overhang sticking out.
It's actually, I think it's 4.5, but it's
Yeah.
such a shallow pitched roof.
Yeah.
This is a steeper pitched roof.
Mhm.
And these are the same pitches. It's 3 and 12 on the existing house, and all the new is 3 and 12.
Okay, does anyone want to formulate? You seem to be the man of the year here. How about you, Brian? Do you want to take a stab at it?
I'll give it a stab. So is this comments only?
Yes, this is comments only.
Okay.
You don't have to do the yellow sheet.
I need to turn myself on. Yes, we'd like you to come back to the full board, and the comments we'd like to make is we think you're going in a positive direction. However, some of the things we'd like to see is a little more study in terms of the way that roof is being applied to the second floor in relationship to the first floor, in particular on the east elevation. Study how the first floor roof is relating to the second floor, either reducing it or clearly defining how the roof actually interacts with the second floor. On the north elevation, study the windows. In particular, study the windows that are in the bathroom, that they should be a different size and, not necessarily different, but study a more appropriate approach to the windows in the bathroom. Study that we'd like to see a little more clarification of how you're going to put a chimney top on the top of the chimney. The board would also like to see you in terms of adding the second floor addition, that it looks like it doesn't occur as an addition, but more in terms of, what do I say, it seems to be more in line with the existing structure. Also on the south elevation, study the configuration of the windows and how they are pertaining and relating to each other, suggesting possibly a sliding glass door, I think, or something like that.
Some other approach.
Yeah. Also, the board would like to see the front elevation reflect the floor plan in terms of the door in the laundry room. Also, to reduce the size of the laundry room window.
A roof plan?
Oh, we would like to see a roof plan included as well. I think that's my motion.
I will second the motion if you add a few things.
Sure.
One is that the designer come back with drawings that indicate where finished floor lines are, that they get the north arrow appropriately placed on the drawings, that at the sections we also get indication of where finished floor lines are, and dimensions to the eaves and to the roof, the ridge lines, that we get that on the elevations also, that the proportions of the windows on the front elevation, particularly at the first floor, the two existing pieces of the house to remain, that those be studied.
I accept those comments.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Under comments?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody mentioned story poles.
Oh, right, and we wanted to see story poles.
I recommend that we do the second level, which is standard level, I believe, select building forms. Is that what am I reading this correctly?
Yeah. That's right.
Which shows the vertical as well as the roof line. Horizontals. As Mr. Sweeney has mentioned, it's pretty commonly done in this town, and there's several contractors that know how to do it. They put a wood thing with a kind of a wood form, and they put sandbags on it, and that's how it sits on top. And so it doesn't ever penetrate the integrity of the roof. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you
I'll
for that.
accept that as part of your motion. As
All
the
right.
seconder.
As a seconder, okay, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I ask
All
one
right.
question before I go, just so that I can be going the right direction? I'm getting the feeling that a house that is two different materials like this is going to continue to feel to you like it's not a cohesive whole. I am just trying to stick with stucco on the part that's already stucco because it's so costly to remove all stucco and make the whole house wood.
No, I think what we're talking about is how you're dealing with proportion of the windows, location of the windows, the size.
Easy.
I don't think didn't hear anybody talk about the materials.
It's not that.
So the blend's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, board members, when you request story polls, I just want to clarify, do you want to do an organized site visit, or do you think you can do that on your own?
I want an organized
Is
one.
the house vacant?
Yes.
It's visible from the street.
If we do it as organized, all the neighbors will get notified then, correct? That there is a time we will be there as a group? Is that how that works?
We do put it on the agenda, but if it's also in the minutes, it's available online for the public as well, as part of the
So
notification.
neighbors would have a clue of when we're going to be there.
Well, how long do they leave the story poles up generally?
Generally, the requirement's typically that they put them up on a Thursday, and they stay up at least until Tuesday, after our meeting.
And how soon after the meeting, and we've requested that, do they go up? This depends on...
When they're ready to come back, they'll put them up Thursday before the...
Oh, I see. Right before the meeting.
I don't mind having a group visit, but I don't care.
Either way.
So I'll vote a group visit unless otherwise.
I'll accept that as a seconder.
I don't think that goes into the minutes, does it? All right. Thank you. As long as you're driving.
Russ, you can see a good example of how they do this at the one at 1222 Shoreline Drive.
We just did it on Aubrey's house too. But he had a flat roof on his garage, so it was easy to put the pedestals there.
Yeah, Shoreline is a great example.
Yeah, because it's on a slope roof. You can see how they did it.
Okay.
Okay, and moving on to 1576 La Vista del Oceano. This is our second concept review of a revised project. Action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. The project was last reviewed on June 3rd, 2013.
Can we go ahead and read?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in the last meeting that this project was looked at, the following motion was made and was continued indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. 1, study the rendering technique and show us how the windows will look in relation to the rest of the building. 2, the board appreciates the reduction in the FAR and the way the project is integrated with the topography. 3, the board appreciates the reduced height and exposed face of the retaining wall. 4, provide plate height dimensions. 5, provide color materials board. Provide cut sheets of the proposed windows. Action was taken on a motion by James, seconded by Miller on a 5-0 vote. Woolery was absent.
Yes, he was. Okay. I guess he's got several things.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So when it's new.
Okay, if you could introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Chris Manson, the architect, and this is Ed Thibault, the owner.
Hello, welcome.
Somebody's not talking to me.
Oh, you just have to talk right into the mic.
Okay. Chris Manson, architect, Ed Thibault, the owner. And if I can address the comments directly on the number 1, show how the windows. We did a couple of things to help with the project. Is that we've actually put dimensions in for the overhangs, and we gave some windows more relief. I'm hoping like what we did was we made the thickness of this wall a lot thicker, and you'll see in the elevation how it overhangs the lower garage area so that we can get this thick wall here. We've put the dimensions in so you can see the actual depth of the overhangs that's happening here, and the elevations. We've tackled the shading a little bit more aggressively, but it's not as great to give you the 3 dimensions. So what we did was we tackled some perspectives that would show the overhang and the depth of the windows and the amount of relief that you get with the not only the recessed doors and windows here, but with the trellises, the amount of trellis that is before the glass here. It shows how that portion in the middle of the building where we have the mass on 2 sides, how it's so enclosed by the other 2 masses that these are shots taken as you walk up La Vista del Oceano from the eastern side, and the one is from the western side. And so until you're directly in front of this building do you ever see like the middle of it, and you can tell that this is the upper wall here, and that would be vegetation beyond the wall, and this is the lower wall here, that's the top. And forgive us for the type of vegetation, it's we just didn't have the time to massage that into what the true vegetation is, but this is an accurate depiction of that's the site. And these are the 2 shots that you're seeing here. This is the eastern one, and this is the western one.
Bring it down a little bit
Yeah.
for the camera.
Sure. And on this one here, to take this one actually where we wanted to make sure that we got the accurate depiction of all of the, when we took the photographs of all the buildings behind, this one here in the computer is actually up 10 feet in the air. So actually you are standing lower down and you don't even get to see this amount when you're on the roadway. And when I took the photograph, I had to stand on the little railing post that they had, you know, to take that. But we did these so that you can just get a feel for the dimension, how much play there is going back and forth, and the depth where all the glazing is. This is the type of glazing system that we're using. Here's a picture of where we have glass doors, and we've also done a cut sheet that shows the section through the material, so you can see the steel versus glass for the records. In addition to that, we've taken the opportunity to walk around the neighborhood and take the buildings that surround these construction sites. This is a building that's right above Mr. Thibault's property. Actually, this one is behind this one, and this is the one that's right above Mr. Thibault's property. This is one that's down at the end of that trio of homes that's being built at the pinch of the hairpin turn. This is another one right above the construction site with the glazing under the roof. This is being built above the trio of homes right now. You can see the type of glazing that they have there too. We're not in any way trying to say that this is something that we'd like to do. We're just going to give you an idea of what is around. And this one is across the street from Mr. Thibault there. And this is Mr. Thibault's house, which is right next to this project. And you would see it, that's it there. That's this one here. And you can see as you're down on this hill looking up at the project, it's with the vegetation, it's very hard to see the lower floor, and you really only see the upper floor here and the trellis. And that's you can see how this view is developed that way. Okay, so that was number 1. Number 2, the board appreciates the reduction. Thank you. And number 3 was okay. Provide plate height dimensions. We did that in this section here. So in this section, we've put the plate height dimensions for you in there so that you can actually see instead of just reading off the numbers. Provide color and materials board. So here's our color and materials board. This is our color here. This would be the garage doors, the tails of the eave rafter tails. You can, on the three-dimensional image that we gave, we have our wooden outriggers here, but we haven't massaged it as yet to get the tail ends just right. Let's see. Provide cut sheets of the proposed windows, and that's in that cut sheet that I left you.
Is it right here?
Yes, yes. And then we also brought, just as an example of how we have, the glazing in the back and the overhang and the columns in the front. This is an example of a building that was built already, and we just want to bring it along to show how that depth really affects the building and having the glass behind, So I think if you have any questions, we'd be happy to either elaborate or give you further information.
Okay, thank you. We have moving on to, I see no public comment, no slips, so we don't have any public comments. So, maybe we do. No. Pardon me? Okay. If you'd like to speak, you need to fill out one of these orange slips and come on over here and have a seat. There we go. And you have 2 minutes to comment. Please introduce yourself.
Much to say.
Please introduce yourself first. And
I support this wholeheartedly. It's nice to have a shorter building in front of me because the views are really spectacular up there. And it's the reason people buy houses up there.
Sure.
And I think Mr. Tebow's suggestion here is a very sound one.
Okay.
And I'd like to see it go forward.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I think it would be beneficial to have story poles at some point.
Pardon me?
So to have story poles at some point. Maybe it's just the ridge line. To see. It's been done in the past.
Yeah.
But this is the permitted building here, and this is where we're lowering the building.
Yeah, it's been lowered considerably, and they're well within the height limitation. So in situations like that where there is no view obstruction, we don't usually, or anybody that's being blocked by the home, we usually don't suggest story poles.
I'm suggesting it.
You are? Yes, you are. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Good to see you.
Okay, questions from the board? Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Jamie.
I really like how you have the combination of these types of windows with maybe you would, I don't know if it's Spanish architecture, but anyway, just the two kind of, it almost seems like old style and a new style combined, which I think is very nice and something that's becoming more popular. And I remember last time we were here, there was a comment about perhaps the arching some of these windows, and was it on the lower part or the upper part? I don't remember, but I just wanted to know your thoughts around that, because I know you do have one arch on the left-hand side.
That's right. And what we really see this building as the design more of the openings in the solid wall as being more rectangular. But in that particular corner of the building, and you can see how we carved out the building to make this porch come into the actual mass of the building. We wanted to make that something a little bit more special, just make it a little bit different, and that's why we gave that corner the special emphasis by arching those windows. It breaks the monotony too of the rectilinear a little bit, and it just softens it a little bit by just giving that arch. And that was the whole idea behind that. And you can see from the perspectives, when you're down on the street looking up, it's a different view than when you're here looking at it straight on, where you don't see how much wall there is above the arch. Because the eave here, as the sloping eave, is hiding a lot of the wall that's above the arch. But when you see it from below, you then see where the plaster is above. You just see that in the 3 dimensions a lot better, and especially when you're down on the street.
So to clarify, it's actually not the window that's arched, it's just the opening.
It's just the opening.
The opening there,
yes.
yeah. So the windows are still square behind it.
That is correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think that the project meets our guidelines. It's beautiful. The neighborhood up there is amazing. The one thing, though, is when you're parked, like on Cliff Drive, let's say, and looking up at all of which I do, because I try, and there's so much going on there all the time and so fast. I'm wondering about the color of that dark brown up at the top above the deck, if that could maybe, if you would think about maybe softening that so it doesn't stand out so high, so strong.
Yes, we can definitely do that. One of the things too is that the wood is actually right now we're looking at this color, and you can see just from the computer trying to get the color right, it's just made it a little darker. So when we actually get into the stage of construction, we'll run those colors in different samples to try and get it.
Yeah, and maybe even away from the dark brown to the other, much lighter.
Yes.
In a way, what it's doing, though, is it's reflecting the color of the roof, so that it might actually kind of disappear into the roof,
Yeah, it's hard to know.
It's hard to know, but this is a darker tile than usual. It's not that red, pinky one, which, so kind of, for me, it kind of works, really. And I'll bet, if you were looking down on that, it would look pretty much continuous. Because of depending on the color match, of course, it's kind of hard to tell on a color board, what it's going to turn out to look like.
It can be a challenge.
Yes. Any other comments?
I thought I had questions, I thought.
Okay.
So I have a question to my colleagues.
Yes.
If we make a motion to, basically, as I'm reading this, we can take any action. So if we were to take a motion to give this project design approval with final approval to come later, how would my colleagues feel about a motion that would allow this project to go to consent calendar for final rather than back to the whole board? That's just a question.
Do we have the garage
with all the
doors?
because there's no details here.
I'll comment.
Okay.
I'd rather have it come back to the board, full board.
Since you're doing consent calendar, that's a good. That's why I'm asking.
I think there's a lot of details that need to be picked up.
Yeah. I need to see some of the details too. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Would you make one then, please?
Yes. I would give this project design approval with the project to come back to the full board for final with details. That the board finds that do we have to make neighborhood compatibility. Where's the yellow sheet?
Here's one.
Lost all the sheet shuffling. That board. Okay. That the board finds that the general consistency and appearance is compatible with the neighborhood and with the guidelines. That the size, scale, and bulk that has been reduced from the originally approved project has been reduced sufficiently to make it compatible. That the quality of architecture and the materials being proposed are acceptable. However, the board wishes to reserve a little judgment on the final color of the trellis and urges the applicant maybe to show us some alternative color selections for the stain. That the approach to the retaining wall and landscaping is appropriate, and that public views have not been inhibited because the project has been reduced considerably in terms of ridge line and roof line from the originally approved project.
Wonderful. And Jamie seconds. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Site approval.
Thank you.
Okay, we are so far behind. We need to pick it up a notch here, okay? You guys, here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have okay, let's pass that down. All right, next project is 213 Loyola Drive. Concept review. This is a new item. It's a proposal to construct a new 662 square foot two-story addition to an existing 1,583 square foot one-story single-family residence with an attached 503 square foot two-car garage located on a 8,136 square foot lot within the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The proposal includes a new 400 square foot second level deck. The proposed total of 2,748 feet is 85% of the required floor to lot area ratio. Concept review, we can take action if sufficient information is provided. Hello, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Adele Goja. I'm with Harrison Design.
Okay, welcome.
And
you'll need to stick right into one of those there. You might shove some of those chairs out of your way.
Good afternoon. My name's Adele Goja, and I'm with Harrison Design. And our clients on this project are on Loyola Drive. They're just a few homes up from Cliff in a neighborhood that has a mix of some of the older original homes that you see on the Mesa and also some newer renovated and two-story homes. So I'm going to walk you through. This is the immediate neighborhood. This is the home south of the project. This is our client's home, and you can see as you go up Loyola Drive, this is a two-story home. The roof lines are pretty similar because this is at a lower elevation. As you go up higher, this is just a single-story home, but the ridge line is considerably higher than our client's home. This gives you a view of what it looks like aerial. You can easily see this is the two-story home that is south. Again, the immediate neighborhood and the home, or the immediate adjacent properties, and the homes across the street are just single-story. And these are the elevations of the home across the street. There have been some improvements to the home since it was originally constructed, but the size of the home remains the same. There's a two-car garage that sits in the front of the property, and then the main area of the home is that rectangular shape here. We have a lot of open yard and a lot of space on the side yard on the north of the property. So the footprint of what we're proposing remains the same. What we'd like to do is we'd like to update the kitchen, and we'd like to take this wing of the home and reconfigure the bedrooms and bathrooms using this space here to enlarge the kitchen, give them a more generous dining area, and take this place for second story circulation. Some minor changes to the existing doors and windows. Again, the footprint of the house remains the same, and the second story that we're tucking here is inside this roof line. And I'll show you the second floor proposed plan. This is where our second-story trellis is. It's tucked between a second-story addition and the roof line on the south property line of the house. So the open walls represent the walls that are existing to remain. And as you can see, most of these walls are going to remain as they are today. We're doing a little bit of changes to this bathroom, and this bedroom again became a staircase for circulation to the second floor. This is the second floor. It's about 660 square feet. This is all new square footage that we're proposing. The circulation comes up to a main hall. It's really a master suite, and this is our proposed trellis. Again, this trellis, it's tucked into the rear yard of the house between a roof line and a second story. So the elevations of the house right now are clad windows. There's stucco on the exterior. What we want to do is do a smooth plaster trowel finish with an integral color on the first floor of the house, and we want to add shingles just to change the texture and add a little bit more character to the second floor. So these you probably aren't that interested in. These are the interior details. Exterior doors and windows. So again, there would be wood with a clad exterior. We'd put window trim around it and shingle siding. So it's 85% or just below 85% of the FAR, so we did not come prepared to do a neighborhood compatibility study, but submitted today were also 2 letters of support from 2 of the residents in the immediate neighborhood. And we're hoping that the board is in favor of the project, and as you can see, we're working towards or anticipating a submittal to the building department as they would like to begin construction this summer. Exterior lighting is included in here. I know your board's not interested in seeing the interiors, but that was just something that we've started on. Exterior, we like to see iron and glass fixtures with kind of an opalescent glass, an opalescent milky glass, so there's no reflective qualities.
Okay, thank you. I see no one anyone for public comment on this project, so we have some letters. Okay, Michelle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to first announce that I received a phone call from a neighbor, Greg Leach, at 237 Loyola Drive, two doors down from the project site. He just requested that I express that he's personally opposed to the rooftop decks as they impose privacy issues and creates a third-story recreation floor area. And then we have received 2 letters of support, one from Michael and Sarah Paskin at 207 Loyola Drive, and one from Don Gordon at 208 El Monte Drive.
So just to help clarify, it's not a third-story roof deck. This is a second-story element here that's tucked in between the residence. And I'll go to the site plan, which has dimensions so you can see the relationship between the roof deck and so the trellis here is almost 18 feet from one property line, and I apologize, it doesn't look like there's a dimension here, but this is our 6-foot side yard setback, and so my guess would be it's probably more than 20 feet, and again, it's tucked behind a second-story addition. It's significantly far from the rear, and I didn't feel that it was, I guess, a sense of invasion of privacy. You can see the outline of the homes on here a little bit better. And the aerial view that we have just on our neighborhood photos, I show you the distance between this home, the property line, and So the second-story addition is going to sit inside this roof.
Okay.
Okay. We'll open up questions from the board.
So essentially, the architectural vocabulary of the current house, it's had some upgrade and remodel. Based on your elevations, my sense is you're not dramatically changing the vocabulary?
No, colors are changing. This will not be. This is going to be painted. So all of the windows and doors on the first floor will be painted. This is the existing home here. It's really, we'll do a smooth plaster coat with an integral color. We'll take the same color as the body of the house that has the plaster below, and we'll do the shingles above at the second floor. Again, we felt like changing the texture of it helps to break up the massing a bit.
And then, do you have a section through here?
No, I don't. I apologize for that. This is just raising the roof just a little bit over the front entry. This is the existing roof line of the house.
Okay. And then the deck is the 400 square feet that's described in here, this terrace that's identified as a terrace?
Yes, that's correct.
400 square feet. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, could you locate that deck for me on the site plan?
Yes.
See where it is.
So if this helps a little bit here, this is the second floor deck. This is the ridge of this roof line, which sits like this. This roof line dives into the second floor above. And this is the second story element, which I think this has a hip at the end.
And then there's another deck out in the front?
And then there's this is a little deck here that sits in front.
And is that covered?
This?
Yeah.
I'll show you on the front elevation. No, it has a gable end in the front. Has a gable end in the front, similar to the garage. And this was one of those kind of funny challenges. It's the gable is not centered on the garage doors. We want to actually mimic the same architecture here by putting a gable above. So if it looks a little off center to you, the doors and the trellis are centered on the ridge line of that second story massing.
So how big is the deck there? I guess it's on the street, right?
It's not on the street, it's tucked.
Not, I understand the back one. What about the other one, though?
This is in the back.
That
It's
one's
in the
in the
rear
rear.
backyard.
And the other one is over the garage? Or?
Yes.
So it's over the garage, so it's over the street.
It's facing.
It's
facing the
but
street.
it's not over the street.
But if you're on the street, you see the deck.
You would, just above the ridge line, you would see the top rail or the top cap of the balcony.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
Yeah, I appreciate the neighbor's concern about the deck, whether he understands whether it's on the second floor or the third floor. 400 square feet is the size of a two-car garage.
Greg was here. He was the gentleman that I met him at the...
So, let's see.
Oh,
Second
yeah.
floor. Okay, so this is the area we're talking about.
Yes.
And I'm just looking at it in relationship to the size of the house, et cetera. It just seems like a big party deck. And I'm just a little concerned that even though you've described how it's tucked in and it's kind of between the second floor and the roof and whatever, so from a visual standpoint, yes, it may be, the impact may be reduced, but it's certainly a big, big deck. And I have the same feeling about this deck off the office and the fact that just given the function, this seems to be a little more than necessary. So that's a concern. And then a comment on the architecture. the relationship and proportion of where these windows are with the relationship to that, the composition here bothers me a little bit. This is done quite nicely. This looks a little awkward. And the other place that looks awkward to me, and maybe that's why I was asking if you had a section, maybe I'm just not reading it right, this looks a little awkward to me. And the elements are kind of correct, but how they're put together is it's not comfortable to me yet.
So if I can help explain this, this is in gray because it's an existing wall. And
So
that
is it
is,
sitting back?
It's actually sitting back. This is the outside wall. So
Okay.
this is the entrance to the house. The door is actually set back, and that was one of the reasons to try to maximize that glass area. And as you come into this is a really low, it's a low plate height, but there's a lot of volume in this space of the house as the ridge comes up. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to break through that with a new gable just to help identify where the front door was and give it kind of use some
Right.
of the height
And
that exists.
I kind of understand it. It just somehow doesn't look right. And do we have a roof plan? We didn't have a roof plan.
No.
Okay, and I guess that's what's kind of helping me put it together. Anyway, those are my comments.
Okay. Brian, have any comments?
And overall, in general, I think it's fine. I'm not too bothered with the proportions. I think one of the problems with this kind of an elevation is it's two-dimensional flat on, and you can't really experience what's really going on. And you're trying to struggle and say, well, you know, and I don't know if you can get a three-dimensional model. That would really help, I think, this board a lot, just a, you know, perspective of how it's really flowing. As far as the size of the deck, I don't know. You know, if it's not intrusive in any privacy issues, then I'm not bothered by it. But a neighbor did comment about it, so I'm going to kind of leave it to the board in terms of.
May I ask city planning staff, Michelle, is there anything that restricts or prohibits, sets a limit to the size of an outdoor living space that's not at grade level? Okay.
It's board discretion, basically.
Neighborhood compatibility.
There are, in the immediate neighborhood, there are a significant amount of second-story balconies or decks if the board chooses to see statistics.
Well, I'm going to weigh in on that. I think this one's huge. I think it's way too big, and I wouldn't be able to support the terrace that size.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my really only comment, because I think the rest of it's really lovely, but and looking nice. I like the entryway a lot, but I just think that the deck is really it's like you said, it's the size of a two-car garage. It's huge. So, anyone else want to weigh in?
No, I'll go along with your
That's an old
comment.
color board. We put the new one on the revised drawing. So sorry, that might be a little confusing.
Okay, what was your comment, Jim?
I'll go along with the comments. I think the entrance roof seems a little awkward. So maybe a perspective of that, or a 3D dimension would be good.
Okay.
To find out what's happening there.
And how do you feel about the deck size?
Well, it's huge. Relative to the adjacent room,
Yeah,
I think it's too large.
I do too.
Yeah.
Bernie?
I agree.
Okay. So it doesn't look like you have any support for the size of the
If
terrace.
it's the board's consensus that the terrace is too large, obviously we'll come back with a reduction in the size. What I can tell you is a reduction in the size, if that's the only concern right now, it won't change the architecture. It won't change the amount of square footage that's being proposed. It will only affect the size of the terrace, and it will be reduced to accommodate the existing roof line of the home. Is there enough information that's on the drawings for us to come back on consent with a reduced size of the second floor terrace?
I don't think so
Does
yet,
it come back
honestly.
to full board?
I think you need to come back to full board because we need to see some more direction on the entryway. There's been 2 comments about that it doesn't feel right yet, so I think we need to see a little bit more work on that. And then,
I have a comment.
Yes, Jamie.
I agree with one of our board members about the window. The one comment about the windows on the second story. It seems like that everything else to me feels really
The windows in the master
fine.
bedroom.
Yeah, I guess those
This
are
is the bed wall.
Yeah,
Right, that's where they're sitting in relationship to that.
right.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Verdi.
So before we make a motion, what about story poles?
Oh, it's
What are your plate
It's
heights?
under the roof line. This is not. This is a 9-foot plate height. These are 8-foot plate heights. The
And you're-
maximum height of the house, I believe, is 21 feet.
21 feet. So they're well under
And
the...
we're well under the solar and the height limit.
I just thought we had discussed making a sort of a policy because these are coming up so fast and so big.
Well, how do you feel about that, Mr. Sweeney, when you had, you brought up on in some of these neighborhoods how
Right,
it is
what
that
we're
waterfall
changing.
effect?
Yeah, the waterfall effect. And so I think that, some sort of story pole is probably in order here. Just because of that. We're seeing all these neighborhoods change.
Yeah,
And we've got all of
quickly.
this, and we just looked at one 3 blocks away this morning, or earlier today, in the same general area. And so I think story poles are going to, I think that our board is going to be obligated to kind of look at the nature of
Yeah,
how
and the
these
neighbors.
second stories are being added in this entire side of the city.
Yeah.
So in light of the time, I'd like to make a
Yeah,
motion if
please.
it's okay.
Please do.
So I would move for continuance to the full board with the following comments, that the applicant provide his story poles to the standard, second standard, is that got a B? Is it B? It's 2, whatever that standard is, which basically is horizontals and verticals.
Okay.
If you'll read the criteria, that'll help us. And I don't believe it's necessary to have a site visit. I think we can all look at this one on our own. That the board finds the general direction of the architecture is acceptable, that the general idea and direction is acceptable. The board would like to see a significant reduction to the exterior terrace on the backyard side of the project. I guess it's on the west. The board would like to see further clarification sections and/or a rendering, perspective rendering of the front entrance on the east elevation, so we can understand that.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? It was a perspective.
Either perspective or
rendering
sections and/or both.
And/or
And/or
sections?
whatever can tell the story best.
All right. Thank you.
That we do, I think in part of that, we do want to see a roof plan, please, so we can see how all the roofs work. And that the architect restudy the proportions of the windows on the master bedroom on the second floor on the east elevation in relationship to the I think what's bothering folks is its relationship to the eave line. And just a helpful hint, we had an applicant just I think prior to you that we had seen a couple of times, and it instantly fell into place because he provided us with a computerized rendering, and then we kind of understood the same issue. It was the same kind of issue. We were not comfortable. So that may be a technique that you might want to use. I'm not saying you have to, but it'll help us kind of understand what you're driving at in terms of those windows. The general color, light fixtures, et cetera, are certainly acceptable.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
All right.
Joe?
Let's continue to the full board, right? Okay, 860 Jimeno Road.
Thought we're finished.
I know. Project design, okay, project design approval is requested. This project was last reviewed on January 28th, 2013. We'll wait for some comments. Some fancy nails.
I'm getting ready for solstice.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Right on. Wow.
It is coming out.
She knows that the only thing they see on TV are people's hands.
Actually, that's true. I always have my nails done. I always have had my nails done, but I've been going a little bit crazy lately. With all sorts of design.
She couldn't make up her mind, so she did them all different.
Well, seems entertaining, right?
How are you doing, Joan? Okay, you're going to read us the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes, meeting last minutes. The following motion was made. Continue the full board with the following comments. Study shrinking the mass to reduce the FAR. 2, study placement of the balcony, windows, master bedrooms, and bedrooms. 3, provide colors and materials board. 4, retain flare design of stairs, study alternative material. 5, provide a landscaping plan. 6, study the entry height. 7, study the height of the porte cochere. 8, study height of windows on the north elevation. The action was taken on a motion by James, seconded by Sweeney on a 7-0 motion.
Okay. All right, if you could introduce yourselves.
I'm Rochelle Malin. I'm the designer for the project.
I'm Joan Raditz, landscape architect.
Wonderful, welcome. And you would like to show us now how you addressed all those points?
Okay. Well, on the square footage, I'll go over the square footage first. We did, we took some square feet off of it, but not very much. In looking at what we had, I go to the site plan in here. We reduced this area in here, so the width into here, this is a little bit narrower in here, and this was a little bit narrower in here. So we did take some square footage off, not too much, because the clients were just really happy with what they had and wanted to retain pretty close to what we had presented. And last time we were here, we were at 92% on the FAR, and it's a almost 23,000 square foot lot. So it's a very large lot. And also, and I want to remind you, in case you've forgotten, that a lot of the square footage on this property is the understory and basement. So it does not appear as large as what the square footage gives you an impression of. Also, I did get the assessors, and on one of the pages you'll see it. I did have the assessors, and this is the square footages for the surrounding properties.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe that it's really out. It's, you know, this property over here is almost 4,900 square feet. So we have 24. We have some 3,000s in there. So relatively speaking, I think it's appropriate for the neighborhood. And like I said, also, you know, once again, we have a lot of square footage in the understory, so it doesn't really show, if you recall. Okay, so also what we did in addressing the things that we redesigned the entryway to the house. I'm going to your different points, things to study. Okay. And actually, before we get into that, I do want to say that as far as the stairs go, we did decide to go ahead and keep the stairs just as is. And I see that my friend Mr. Cahill's not here today, but I did go to the city and I spoke to them. It didn't require a permit, but I just wanted to let them know anyway that these steps here, you can see they're pretty broken and they're falling apart and uneven. So he went ahead and had new stone just put in. So everything else is the same. He just put new stone in. There is a textured, it's chip cut like this. It's just with the cast shadow in this photograph, you don't really see that. So I just wanted to say that. And then we removed the grout, and he evened out some of the steps here. This is the original staircase, front staircase. And this is just all under repair and maintenance. So we removed the concrete colored grout and we replaced it with sandstone colored grout. And then the stonemason Rama, he chipped it and evened it and cleaned it up, and it looks a lot better. Yeah, I think you can see that. So we did keep it, and it looks a lot nicer now.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
We go to the elevations. You'll see that on the elevation as well. As far as the window heights and things, what I did discuss with my client, because a lot of these windows are original for the 1910 house, we just decided to go ahead and remove even the windows that they were going to keep that were original and replace them, which will allow us to clean up some of the window heights, because I have 4 different header heights existing on the house right now. So we're going to be able to keep that more uniform at this point. There's only going to be a few exceptions, like the little bump outs that they have. Obviously, those are at a lower height. But there's 3 of these features on the house. And obviously, they're just a unique feature. So the rest we will have at a 7-foot plate height for doors and the windows. So that'll clean up the appearance of it. As far as the front elevation, the entryway here, as we went ahead and did lower it, but we also changed the design of it, and I think this is a little more attractive, and because we had so many hip roofs on here, that this draws a little more attention to the entryway as well. So we lowered it, but we changed the design so it's all uniform as far as the height on there. This is our sample board. This is the cedar siding, 7/4 inch shiplap, and this is the color, the beige, for the trims, which will be smooth for the casings and trims around the windows and the doors. And this is the decking, the roof decking, and these are the doors and windows. We have some Marvins in there right now, and this will be what we use when we go in there. I also brought a photograph just so you can see. The roof decking. There we go. This is how it is right now. This is, and they like that look, so we're keeping that. Obviously, the body of the house will be a little bit deeper and richer. And currently, if you recall, there aren't any. There's no casing around the windows, so we're going to case those out and give it a little more volume. So those are the, and as far as the driveway, we also discussed the driveway. I told you they were planning. If you've been out there, you've seen it. So the driveway is asphalt currently, and it does need some TLC, and they know that. They were planning on redoing it. So we are just. Let me see. We're going to put the pavers in. There's 3 sizes of the pavers. This is and we're going to do just the border, the 9 by 4, I believe it's 14 borders on the edge. These are the colors in there. This is an actual sample, and it blends really nice with the sandstone on the house. Also, what we're going to do, and this will lead into part of what Joni's doing, is if you've seen, I think there's some in the pictures in the file, the street photographs, there's a hedge, and you really don't see the house from Jimeno plus it drops down. So what we're doing is we're creating a little entryway off the driveway over here. So we're going to put just a short wall into here, and there's an existing hedge in here. So we'll have this little entryway with a couple of steps down that'll lead you to the front. Because what we have is this is a road easement up in here. And it's kind of we study that a bit. But without going through a lot of hassles for, working with on the city's property to create an entry over here, we elected to go ahead and just do this over here.
Okay. Now let's
landscape.
Landscape. All right, there we go. Get it back here. Here we go. Now
They're toward the rear.
Landscape pictures.
I do. Some are clipped on, but it's maybe
So for the landscape, one of the main things we're doing is there are 2 large lawn areas that we're removing, and we're putting in all Mediterranean drought-tolerant plants. And so that will reduce the amount of water required for the site. And so let's turn the page a couple times. sorry. One more. That one. So now the entrance is here, coming to the front door. And this was a lawn area, this was a lawn area, and actually this whole thing was a lawn area. So all of these will be taken out and replaced with drought-tolerant plantings. And then the rest of the site is remaining as is. We're taking out several trees. One is an avocado up in this right-hand corner here. And one is a persimmon tree that is going to be removed because it's right at the corner of the house. The avocado that is getting taken out, it's not healthy, nor does it produce very good avocados. So we're replacing it with a leptospermum, which is a lowish tree, but it has a multi-trunk and it's got white flowers, and it will not interfere with any view because the neighbor above is quite high on the site. I did talk with Ann Marks, and she came out to the site, and we talked about the landscape, and she thought that everything looked fine for her.
Okay.
And
Just looking for your key here.
oh, well, here I have a separate plant list for you, so that you don't have to go back and
Oh,
forth.
that's wonderful. How thoughtful. Okay.
And much of the landscape is already quite drought tolerant, so you can see by some of the photographs. So I'll give her one too, another picture.
Okay. Did you want to? Yeah. Do you have one? Okay, good. Okay. That's all the points have been handled there. All right. Then we have some letters. Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, board members. I just wanted to read a letter into the record from Mike and Linda Cahill. The letter states, Dear Chair and board members, we respectfully request that in your deliberations concerning the above referenced property, please look carefully at the placement and shielding of the exterior lighting, especially the east side of the project and the south side. If a statement is made to the effect that this is a non-issue and that our windows and that their windows are small, please know one of our windows on that side of our home is 3 by 5 feet. 3 feet by 5 feet. Also, at some point in the future, we plan to renovate our home that would include larger windows to take better advantage of our views of the sunsets, etc. Exterior lighting, not properly shielded, will shine into our bedroom. Other than protecting our view corridor, we wish the applicant well as they proceed through the approval process. Respectfully, Mike and Linda Cahill, 810 Lagura Place.
Okay, thank you. All right, comments from the board, or questions, I should say?
I have one kind of audit contract. Why are these spots all over the...
You know, for some reason when it was printing, it was just doing that. So I don't know, I may just try a different hatch or something.
Oh.
Yeah. It is odd.
A hidden code or something.
No. It's one of those things that happens, you can't figure out why.
Oh, okay.
In my electronic file, when you look at it, it looks wonderful. But when it prints, it's creating those little spots. I don't know why.
Madam Chair, I just have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Could you address is it the Cahill? Where are they located, and then could you address the lighting issue?
I sure can. They are, if we go back to this plan here, they are located right over here. And see, one of the pictures you have over there has a snippet of his house. Here we go, right here. This is Mr. Cahill's house. So, like I said, this is over here. Now, in the past, I worked on a previous adjoining property, and I did look up his floor plan. This is his master walk-in closet. This is his master bathroom window. This is these are two bathroom windows, and this is actually in the transition, a breezeway between his walk-in closet and his master bathroom. So these are both bathroom windows here, just so you know, and the closet. And as far as his sunset, and well, this is a different thing, but we're just maintaining the hedge into here for privacy because he videotapes my clients through his bathroom windows.
Really?
He explained to me he's doing that.
There is
in case a fire were to break out, my client's fire alarm and security system probably wouldn't be adequate. So he's keeping an eye on the house for them.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
But in theory, if he does remodel the house, he might want to put a window here.
If he changes his master, if
Yeah,
his walk-in closet,
whatever he
sure.
might do, he might put a window there. Okay.
Okay, so with
then what the lighting fixture?
So with regard to the light, currently right now there's actually an exterior light fixture on this side of the garage. We're removing it. Okay, and that so actually faces his house. Now there's a light above the garage here and a light, and we're going to add a light over here on this garage just so it's uniform. All other light, and of course one is required when we put the French doors here on the understory. One is required at the exterior entrance. That's by code. And we're not adding anything else. There's an existing post lamp over here, post light over here. We're not doing any landscape lighting whatsoever. And as you can see from the photographs, he's got a oleander hedge. It's probably at least 25 feet in height along most of the property. And then my client, of course, has this hedge that's about, what would you say, that's probably about
5 to 6 feet. It's a Liguston.
Okay. So if there were anything down here, and obviously these are bedroom windows over here, there's no exterior lighting here, there's no exterior lighting here, there's none. We have step lights in here, so it shines directly down. I don't have any up lighting here. We're going to add a post lamp that matches these. There's 2 existing ones, which is a low light, with a hood on it. But any light that might spread over to here, obviously this hedge and this 25-foot oleander would screen anything. And this is like I said, his house is further down to here. So we're actually eliminating some lighting that faces his house.
Could you just show me where these 2 will be located on the elevation?
And do you have
I do have a
pictures?
photograph.
You had pictures of the light fixtures too, didn't you?
Yeah, I do.
That's the sleeve.
This is the light fixture that we're removing right there, and here's the one that's existing. We're going to add another one over this garage here.
Basically the same fixture.
Correct.
Okay.
And believe that.
They have obscure glass.
Yes, they do.
That's okay.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here they are.
There we go. Perfect.
So we're improving the look of them, keeping them very similar to what's there, but just improving them a little bit. These are existing solar lights that they have on the brick pathway, and I just indicated those.
Okay. And then finally, just my last question is on your new entry configuration, which shows up on an elevation
Yeah,
somewhere.
it's a 6 and 7.
Let's see. Okay. I just wanted to see it. I have a comment, but I'll wait to comment.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions, comments?
Jim, you come.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think that's a big improvement.
Oh,
Mike?
and I did forget to mention, well, what we did decide also, if you look on the next page, I need a pen to write out here, on the elevation, is that we had the curved, oh, thank you. Thanks. We were going to make these a tapered column. We decided to go ahead and keep those. We're just going to remove the rough texture that's been put on them and sand them down and make them smooth. So I thought if we're keeping the curved staircase, that this would tie into that better.
So are those wood?
No, they're concrete.
Huh?
So but you're going to smooth down.
We're going to smooth the stucco, yes. If you can, I'm not sure if I have, well, you can't tell too much, but here's one photograph.
Those are funny little
And
columns, aren't
they're
they?
much, well, somebody went and put like a textured coat on them. And they're slathered all over.
They kind of did that in those days. My only comment, I think that the last time we had a lot of concern about the windows, but I think your ability to address the window height kind of made all that go away. Okay. So my only concern, and this is just really a aesthetic issue, it's not a break or make of design approval or anything, is that the proportion of how you've done this these columns here, for me, aren't quite there yet.
Okay.
There's something there that's not. I'm not sure what it is. But and because you're retaining these other kind of very unique columns, maybe there's a way to introduce not necessarily that column design, but some gesture towards this kind of element of architecture that they used in 1910 on the front. So that would be my only comment.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
No comment.
Comments? Yes, Brian?
I got informed by the city that it qualifies for a 3-star. It requires a compliance for 3-star on
Oh, just leave it on.
It requires a 3-star for your Build Green Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and
I
the
don't-
worksheet prepared currently only is saying that it qualifies for 1 star. So you
Okay,
need
there's a few other things that I need to go over with my clients previous, so I just wanted to get that on there, just so you know that we're in the process of addressing that.
Okay,
Okay,
that's my only comment.
all right. All right, well,
Yes?
we can take some action here.
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Please do.
That we give this project design approval, that it return to the full board for review of details, and did we see a color board? No, not yet.
Oh,
Yeah, she had.
I brought
yeah,
that.
no.
I think it's,
It's buried somewhere.
oh, wait, sorry.
Okay, so
Well, we
color
have
board is
details.
here.
Color board's
We
here.
have some details. And that the star, what did you say, star?
The
3-star Built Green information be provided?
Yeah, the Santa Barbara Build Green, it requires a 3-star.
All right. And then the board is appreciative of the fact that the applicant has decided to retain the major front staircase and the work that's been done to rehabilitate it. That in general, we approve the general direction of the architecture and the language of the architectural style, and that we appreciate the adjustment of the windows and the window heights that addressed our previous concerns. That's my motion.
And lighting?
Oh, and we want to denote that the lighting, the exterior lighting, that the applicant is removing lighting that's on the, is that east elevations, and that the board is in favor of the proposed lighting that's shown on sheet A 2.2, and wants to make sure that it's obscure glass and not clear in the final application.
Okay. Very nice. I'll second that. And all in favor?
Well, I have a question.
Oh, you have a
comment. Do you want it to go back before the full board, or can it go before consent? How do you guys feel?
I'm looking at the.
Oh.
I think we should come back on full board.
Okay.
Okay. That was my motion.
Okay.
Okay. Back to full board. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Wonderful. Thank you.
So, did it come higher than?
Pardon me?
Do we have to do that for design?
I tried to do like final.
Oh, yeah. You better make neighborhood
Sorry.
compatibility.
We find that it's compatible with the neighborhood, that its general consistency and appearance is acceptable. Quality of architectural materials proposed and submitted on the materials board, color board is acceptable, and that the landscaping approach is appropriate.
Yes. And I'll announce a 10-day appeal period for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, you're going.
Is this yours or is this?
That,
I think we keep
that
that.
was yours.
Anything that was on camera.
Do you want to keep the photographs of the stairs in the?
Yeah, well, I guess.
Yeah, you should probably-
I think anything that's on camera we have to keep.
Yeah, well, also, he spoke with my client on Monday. He said, what are you doing? And Mr. Yob explained to him, we're repairing, replacing those bottom stones.
Oh, I see.
And he goes, well, I won't call the city. And then by Wednesday, he was calling me.
Oh, one moment. I'm now going to adjourn the June 17th Single Family Design Board.